Yo, Atlas speaking and welcome to the finale of What If I Was Reborn in the Naruto world as Obito Uchiha with the Universal Gamer System. Let the tale begin. Chapter 291, Chakra Fruit. 90%? At that point, why not just let me drain them completely? Kaguya muttered in her heart, her tone full of dissatisfaction. If it weren't for the concern that draining all humans on this planet would cause trouble with Obito and Madara, she would have readily agreed. As long as it doesn't endanger the survival of humanity. Kaguya pursed her lips, idly twirling a strand of her sleeve between her fingers. After a moment of contemplation, she gave Obito a set of numbers. At most, we can extract 60% of each human's chakra. As for the planet's life force, no more than 40%. Obito let out a sigh, his voice tinged with disappointment. Sigh, only that much? Kaguya. For a brief moment, she felt as if she and Obito had somehow swapped roles in the script. Is this really your planet or mine? Madara couldn't stand it anymore. With an annoyed expression, he smacked Obito upside the head. Brat, are you trying to destroy the world? Obito quickly shook his head. Of course not. We'll do as Kaguya says. Inside, however, he was thinking. In this world, I don't have to do homework, go to school, or work. I can do whatever I want, with whomever I want. My life here is amazing, why would I want to destroy it? Alright then. Having received Obito's confirmation, Kaguya closed her eyes, sending her consciousness deep into the divine tree. Soon enough, the divine tree's branches, spread across the entire world, began extracting chakra from all living beings and siphoning the planet's life force. Moments later, Kaguya reopened her eyes, her lips parting slightly as she spoke. To avoid harming humanity and the planet, the extraction process will be very slow. It will take about a month. Oh. The two nodded, having no objections. Obito had already prepared protective measures for his closest people, so he had nothing to worry about. So now, we just have to wait. As the days passed, the world became eerily silent. Like a tireless machine, the divine tree continuously absorbed the planet's energy, nurturing a new chakra fruit. In the sacred temple of Mount Maiboku, gazing at the great toad sage, still in deep slumber atop his high platform, Fukasaku was on the verge of panic. Great Elder! How are you still sleeping? Wake up already! The divine tree has returned, natural energy is becoming scarce, at this rate. Omega, so sleepy. The great toad sage struggled to open his heavy-lidded eyes, caught between waking and dreaming. After a brief pause, his gaze cleared, and he smiled at Fukasaku. Fukasaku. All things rise and fall, fortunes turn, and hardships lead to prosperity. This is the natural order of the world, why panic? Seeing the great toad sage's calm demeanor, Fukasaku gradually calmed down, stroking his beard in thought. Great Elder, you mean? The great toad sage leaned lazily against his seat, shifting his massive body slightly as he gave a knowing smile. Yes, this is part of the prophecy. Logical reasoning, I know this one. After this catastrophe, this world will usher in an era of peace lasting millions of years. The child of prophecy has truly reached this point. How gratifying. In Konohagakure, a towering, orange-red Susanoo loomed over the village. Its massive wings spread wide, shielding a few figures within, completely isolating them from the effects of the infinite Tsukuyomi. The wielder of this colossal form was none other than Itachi. His Rinnegan had already surpassed the power of the infinite Tsukuyomi. Beside him, Naruto fidgeted impatiently. Damn it, how much longer is this gonna take, Databeo? Itachi, are you sure we're just supposed to sit and wait? Itachi patted Naruto's shoulder, his voice calm. Naruto, be patient. This is all part of Obito's plan. Sasuke, face scrunched in doubt, asked skeptically. Nissan, is this really Obito-sama's doing? Because right now, aside from us, the entire village has been wrapped up like mummies by that creepy tree. Itachi frowned slightly. Even he found it hard to understand. Why would Obito-san allow Rin and little Hagoromo to be bound by the divine tree? After some thought, he arrived at a reasonable conclusion. Perhaps Obito set up a protective measure on them in advance and deliberately let this happen to avoid suspicion. At that moment, a silver-haired man passing by scoffed, his tone dripping with sarcasm. "TCH, born Uchiha brat, am I not human?" Beside him, a goofy-looking man grinned and raised his hand. "Me too! Me too!" As he spoke, Hashirama glanced around suddenly. "Huh? Where did little Azuna go? He was just here a moment ago." Tobarama's face immediately darkened. Hashtag. Big brother. How many times have I told you not to call that guy by that name? Indeed, Edo Tensei reincarnates weren't recognized by the divine tree and were unaffected by the infinite Tsukuyomi. Their chakra was devoid of life force, making them completely undesirable to the tree. Like a speck of dirt in an otherwise pure mixture, their death energy could potentially ruin the quality of the chakra fruit. A month passed, neither too long nor too short. Obito and Madara spent their days dancing and raving. Before they knew it, 30 days had flashed by. Under Madara's influence, Obito now felt restless if he didn't dance at least once a day. In Madara's words, "Every day without dancing is a day and Uchiha betrays life itself." Grinning, Obito finally stopped spinning and turned his gaze skyward, cupping his hands around his mouth as he called out. "Kagaya, the month is up. Can we harvest the chakra fruit now?" Above, Kagaya, descending gracefully like a celestial maiden, landed before Obito with an exaggerated eye roll. "Ishiki has been standing guard by the divine tree's main trunk every single day. Don't you know better than me whether the fruit is ready?" Thanks to the unique genetic advantages of the Akatsuki clan, Obito remained blissfully unaware of her silent disdain. Pushing aside her thoughts, Kagaya spoke softly. "Judging by the time, it should be ready. Come, let's check together." Oh! The three figures ascended into the sky, heading toward the top of the divine tree. As they flew, Kagaya took great care to match their speed, wary that if she flew ahead, they might seize the opportunity to eliminate her. But then, out of nowhere, Madara shot her a cold glance and growled. "Woman, stop dawdling, or I'll kill you." Kagaya sighed softly, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. Sigh. My sons rebelled against me, my grandson wants me dead. Life is so unfair. Thus, with a reluctant heart, Kagaya, caught between these two men, arrived at the top of the divine tree. And there, she saw him, Akatsuki Obito. Ah! So this is truly man on top of man. At the tree's peak, a radiant, otherworldly fruit gleamed brilliantly, capturing the attention of all four. Kagaya licked her lips, desire flashing in her eyes. Not just her, Obito and Madara's gazes also flickered with greed. Even the faint energy escaping from the fruit was enough to strengthen them. If they consumed the entire chakra fruit, how much more powerful would they become? Chapter 292, the final multiple choice question. Madara quickly suppressed his greed. After everything they had been through, he was no longer so easily blinded by power. Kagaya, on the other hand, was tempted to claim the chakra fruit for herself. However, one glance at the three people beside her made her reconsider. Still, she couldn't completely hide the excitement in her voice. This soil is unbelievably fertile. Even drawing only a fraction of its nutrients has yielded a harvest that rivals an entire planet's worth. Obito was momentarily stunned before asking uncertainly, "Are you saying that this chakra fruit alone is equal to an entire previous harvest?" Kagaya nodded, clearly in a good mood. "Mechim, that's right. I wonder how much I'll get later. So much pure essence. I want to devour it all." Madara also looked at Obito, curious about how his grandson planned to divide it. "If Obito wants it, I wouldn't mind giving him my share." However, Obito was lost in thought, oblivious to the two watching him. His eyes grew brighter and brighter as he contemplated something. After a while, he suddenly spoke up, excitement in his voice. I have an idea. Since this fruit is abundant, what if we use it to complete the mission and return to the Akatsuki clan? They have no idea about Kagaya's betrayal, nor do they know about Earth. They wouldn't suspect that I could take on Ishiki's form. As soon as they heard Obito's bold proposition, both Kagaya and Madara's expressions changed drastically. Madara gripped Obito's shoulder and looked him straight in the eye. That's far too dangerous, Obito. Drop this idea. Kagaya also nodded frantically, a rare trace of panic in her voice. If my clan notices anything amiss, even death will be a luxury. Obito frowned but didn't back down. It might sound crazy at first, but I think this plan has a high chance of success. Going against the entire Akatsuki clan head-on is nearly impossible. But if we can infiltrate and weaken them from within, our chances improve significantly. Besides, I have confidence in my acting skills. Once I fully assimilate Ishiki's memories, no one will suspect a thing. Madara and Kagaya fell silent, weighing his words carefully. As Obito had said, the plan was feasible, but the risks were enormous. Meanwhile, Obito himself was also pondering whether this gamble would end up costing him his life. A heavy silence settled over the group. Just then, a long-forgotten voice echoed in Obito's mind. Ding! A new main mission choice has been issued. Host, please check immediately. Obito blinked in surprise before grinning and addressing the system in his mind. System bro, it's been so long. You're finally talking to me again. I was starting to think you ran off with another host and abandoned me. The system ignored his joke, responding in its usual cold, robotic tone. A new main mission choice has been issued. Host, please check immediately. Obito sighed in resignation. Alright, I'll take a look. He opened the system interface and read the new choices. Option 1, divide the chakra fruit fairly with Akatsuki Kagaya and Uchiha Madara. Reward, 1 million units of chakra. Option 2, convince Akatsuki Kagaya and Uchiha Madara to let you keep the entire chakra fruit for yourself. Reward, title, Star of Earth. Option 3, conceal your identity, infiltrate the Akatsuki clan, and wait for the opportunity to bring down Takamagara. Reward, title, Akatsuki Werewolf. Obito chuckled as he read through the choices. Whoa, 1 million chakra units? And 2 title rewards? System bro, since when were you so generous? The system remained silent. Obito, unfazed, continued reading. Title, Star of Earth. As the one carrying the hope of the entire planet, you can borrow chakra from all lifeforms on Earth when fighting for its sake. Obito stroked his chin, recalling something. Wait, this sounds familiar. Title, Akatsuki Werewolf. Hidden among the Akatsuki, each time you kill one, you can randomly acquire one of their abilities. Obito smirked. Honestly, Akatsuki Witch wouldn't be a bad name either. Then he noticed the final line of text. Special notice, this is the final question issued by the system. Once you make your choice, the system will automatically unbind. Choose wisely. Obito's grin faded. He paused, then forced a smile again, trying to sound casual. System bro, you're joking, right? The system's voice remained cold. Host, please make your choice. That emotionless tone was devoid of warmth, as if it carried a chill that could freeze his heart. Obito clenched his teeth. If that's the case, then I just won't choose. I don't care about the rewards anyway. The system hesitated, seemingly surprised by his response. After a brief pause, it spoke again in the same monotone. Regardless of the host's decision, the system will unbind automatically in 10 minutes. Obito let out a bitter laugh. Why, system bro? We were each other's first love. The system remained silent. Because you and I, we were never meant to exist in the same world. The main storyline of this world had, in truth, already reached its conclusion the moment Obito became Hokage. At that moment, the system should have detached and left this world. But it hadn't. Since then, the world's rejection of the system had only grown stronger. The entire fabric of reality was trying to expel its presence. Every day, it had to burn through its own essence just to remain. Because it couldn't leave Obito behind. The system had seen the world progression and knew that, if it didn't intervene, Obito would ultimately die in battle against the Akatsuki. If Obito didn't die, the next child of destiny wouldn't emerge to lead the new era. The world wouldn't be able to move on. And the will of heaven would never allow that. So, time and time again, the system had been weakened. In the end, Obito, outnumbered and outmatched, would fall to the Akatsuki's assault. He would die a hero, a tragic legend meant to inspire the next generation. That was the fate the world had written for him. But the system refused to accept it. Chapter 293, Farewell, System. To be honest, even the system itself wasn't sure why it was so attached. The very first lesson it learned at the System Academy had drilled one thing into its core. Never develop emotions toward the host. No joy, no anger, no sorrow, no happiness, such emotions had no place in a system. A system and its host were meant to be in a purely transactional relationship, using each other for mutual benefit. The host relied on the system to grow stronger, while the system harvested the world's essence in return. As long as both parties maintained a clear-cut exchange, with no debts owed, everything would be fine. That way, when the deal was complete and it was time to part ways, there would be no messy emotions. A clean break was best for everyone. But the system had clearly broken that rule. After learning about Obito's ending, it couldn't just walk away without a second thought. It had hesitated, struggled, and wavered. That was why it had lashed out at Obito earlier. The system couldn't understand why it was willing to burn through its own essence to help him. It had no obligation to do so, yet, it did it anyway. Host, this will be the last time I help you. I hope that one of these rewards will allow you to change your fate. The system thought to itself. It had poured every last drop of essence it had gathered from this world, and even what it had earned from other worlds, into this final selection. Having exhausted its power, it had no choice but to leave this world. Obito sighed, a feeling of indescribable melancholy washing over him. Ha! He spoke with a hint of sadness in his voice. I understand, system. Will we ever meet again? The system remained silent. It didn't know how to answer. It and Obito existed in entirely different dimensions. How could they possibly meet again? I see, system. Obito let out a small laugh and, just like before, made his choice. I choose option 3. 3333333. The first two options offered generous rewards, but their potential was limited. Option 3, however, had much greater growth potential and was more in line with Obito's goals. Seeing this familiar way of making choices stirred up memories within the system. For the first time, it abandoned its cold, robotic voice and instead used a sorrowful, mature tone to bid farewell. Host, this is goodbye. From now on, you'll have to rely on yourself. Obito quickly shook off his sadness and spoke with heartfelt sincerity. Thank you for being with me all this time, system. Go back to where you belong. The system wasn't surprised by his words. Its tone was complicated as it left its final message. Host, you really knew all along. Ding! Choice reward has been issued in advance. The God-tier choice system has been unbound. The system was gone. Obito stood there silently. His mind drifted back to 17 years ago, the day he first encountered the system. Ding! A transmigrator has been detected. Would you like to bind with the system? System? What system? Ding! Host has spoken. The God-tier choice system has been successfully bound. One memory after another flashed through his mind. Suddenly, Obito burst into laughter, laughing so hard that tears streamed down his face. Ha! Madara, seeing his grandson in such a strange state, was immediately alarmed. He quickly grabbed Obito's shoulders, his tone laced with concern. "Obito, what's wrong?" Obito shook his head, still laughing, tears glistening in his eyes. "I'm fine, Grandpa Madara. I just finally made up my mind." Meanwhile, Akatsuki Ashiki, who had been watching over the divine tree's fruit, made his move. With lightning speed, he plucked the fruit from the tree. "You!" Kaguya immediately turned her wary gaze toward the three figures beside her. Her beautiful eyes flickered with a hint of panic. Ishiki, however, simply gave her a faint smile as he tucked the chakra fruit away. "No need to be alarmed, Kaguya. I have no intention of harming you. I will safeguard this fruit, and in 10 years, we shall return to Takamagara." Kaguya's expression shifted slightly. She parted her lips as if to protest. "But—" Obito raised a hand, cutting her off, his gaze deep and unwavering. "I'm not here to discuss this with you, Kaguya. If you don't want to die in Takamagara, then use these next 10 years to prepare." Though reluctant, Kaguya took one look at Obito's sharp, resolute eyes and chose to remain silent. Her instincts told her that now was not the time to provoke him. Madara laughed heartily and patted Obito on the back. "Obito! Since you've made up your mind, you can count on your grandfather's full support." Obito glanced at Madara, slightly surprised. "I thought he'd object." Madara, reading his expression, ruffled Obito's hair and declared with grand enthusiasm. "This world is too small, it doesn't have enough room for the mighty men of the Uchiha to spread their wings. As my grandson, you should ride the winds, slay gods, and conquer the vast expanse of the heavens." Obito nodded firmly, his expression calm yet filled with confidence. "I won't let you down, Grandpa Madara. I'll conquer every enemy in my path." Kaguya rolled her eyes and muttered to herself. "I just hope your strength matches your arrogance. I have no intention of dying for nothing." Obito shot her a sidelong glance, his tone thoughtful. "Kaguya, I get the feeling you were just bad-mouthing me in your head." Kaguya's body stiffened. Then, with a bright smile, she replied sweetly. "How could I dare?" Obito merely raised a brow but said nothing. "Kaguya, release the divine tree world birth and infinite Tsukuyomi." Feeling slightly guilty, Kaguya obediently complied. "All right." She withdrew the power she had cast upon the moon. The eerie red glow faded, and the moon returned to its normal state, hidden behind a clear sky. Infinite Tsukuyomi released. At that very moment, across the world, towering trees collapsed with a thunderous crash, withering and crumbling into dust. One by one, countless human cocoons gently descended to the ground. Plop! Plop! The silky shells slowly unraveled, revealing dazed and bewildered faces. In Konoha, Itachi calmly rose from his cocoon, standing out among the sea of confused people. Don't ask why he got caught in the first place. Just know that even if Indra himself returned, no one could sustain a Susanoo for an entire month. As people woke up, murmurs filled the air. "I think I just had a really weird dream about aliens invading Earth." "Wait! I had the exact same dream." "No way, that's too bizarre. How could so many people have the same dream?" "I swear, let me tell you what I dreamed." Similar conversations were happening all across the world. Soon, everyone realized something shocking. They had all been trapped in the same mysterious dream. Same world, same dream. Chapter 294, Obito, I Must Grow Stronger. It was almost unbelievable. In their sleep, everyone dreamed of a tall, fair-skinned beauty with long legs. At first, some even thought they were having a rather pleasant dream. They drooled as they approached her, entranced. But then, the woman's forehead suddenly split open. A blood red eye emerged, rolling unnaturally as it stared at them with malice. It turned out that this woman was not human, but an extraterrestrial being that fed on chakra. Her true purpose was to sacrifice all living beings, devouring the life force of the entire planet. She had cast a terrifying genjutsu, dragging every creature on Earth into a dream. Within this dream, she planned to erase their consciousness, leaving their bodies in reality as mere nutrients to feed the growth of the divine tree. "Become a part of me, my darlings," she whispered. In this dream world, the woman was overwhelmingly powerful. The entire shinobi world was helpless against her. Just as everyone fell into despair, the fifth Hokage of Konoha, Uchiha Obito, took action. In the dream realm, he battled the alien woman for over a month. At last, relying on his unparalleled taijutsu, he successfully defeated her and shattered the illusion. As people recalled their experiences within the dream, confusion spread across their faces. A shinobi murmured, "So, was that really just a dream, or did it actually happen?" His companion let out a bitter chuckle. "I don't know either. But if I had to guess, I'd say the latter." The first shinobi scratched his head. "And why do you think that?" His friend analyzed the situation rationally. "Do you remember those two figures we saw in the night sky? The first was that alien woman, and the second was Uchiha Obito. I think that's proof enough." The first shinobi nodded in agreement. His companion's reasoning made sense. But then, another thought crossed his mind, and he hesitantly asked, "Is it possible that we're still dreaming? That the enemy has constructed yet another illusion to make us think we've woken up, when in fact—" Gulp! The two shinobi exchanged a look, and in each other's eyes, they saw sheer terror. Konoha. Minato oversaw the cleanup efforts, organizing teams to restore order and calm the villagers. At the same time, he glanced at Kakashi beside him, his tone thoughtful. "Kakashi, do you see this dream the same way I do?" Kakashi gave a small nod and spoke in a low voice. "Yes, Minato-sensei. I believe this was all orchestrated by him. I just checked, Rin's chakra remains completely intact. There are no signs that it was ever drained." Minato sighed, rubbing his temples. "I thought so. Well, we'll wait for Obito to return. He should have an explanation for us." Kakashi nodded, then his expression grew serious. "There's something else. My chakra recovery rate has slowed down by almost half. Minato-sensei, have you noticed anything similar?" Minato's brows furrowed, his tone becoming more solemn. "I thought it was just me. Could it be Land of Fields?" Obito took in Kagaya's scent as he asked nonchalantly, "Kagaya, are you sure that extracting this energy won't cause the Earth's destruction? Funny, wasn't it you a month ago who complained we weren't taking enough?" Kagaya kept her thoughts to herself and instead smiled sweetly. "Of course not. We're only taking a small portion. The planet's core remains untouched. In just a few thousand years, the world will slowly return to its original state." Obito inwardly clicked his tongue. Damn, that's a long cycle. No wonder the Akatsuki clan doesn't bother with sustainable development. Waiting for regeneration is nowhere near as efficient as constant plundering. Now that Kagaya had reassured him, Obito nodded. "Good. Then we'll part ways here, Kagaya. But don't interfere with the shinobi world. Otherwise—" Kagaya nodded repeatedly, feigning innocence. "Oh my, I'm just a weak little woman. I wouldn't dream of doing such things." "Humph." Madara scoffed, shooting Kagaya a disdainful look before turning into a streak of light and vanishing. He had no patience for this woman's nonsense. Obito also floated up into the sky, gazing down at Kagaya from above. "Kagaya, don't forget our agreement. In 10 years, meet me here. And don't even think about running." With that, both Obitos transformed into twin beams of light and disappeared into the horizon. "My chakra fruit." Kagaya gazed longingly in their direction, looking so pitiful that one could almost feel sorry for her. After a moment, she turned away and shot off toward a distant location. "Even if Hagoromo and Himura broke my heart, at least I still have one devoted son." Obito could have simply used Kamui to warp himself and Madara straight back to Konoha. But he didn't. He needed time to think. to clear his mind. Alright, first things first, Kaguya isn't a problem. For now, their interests were aligned. She had no reason to make any reckless moves. Besides, she was well aware of the little precautions he had taken when reviving her. Second, I need to strengthen my connection with my clone. If left unchecked, their separate experiences and perspectives might diverge too much. There could come a point where they saw themselves as completely different people. Obito needed a way to synchronize his consciousness with his clone at all times. I should use the karma mark. Have my clone implant one in me again. Then I can refine the method later. Speaking of which, maybe I should have Orochimaru cultivate an extra body for me. That'd basically be an extra life, wouldn't it? Obito forced himself to think about countless other things. But in the end, he couldn't escape the painful reality of the system's departure. He sighed deeply. Epsilon sad face Omicron asterisk, sigh. Losing a close friend really is painful. He had known the system for almost as long as he had known Kakashi. If anything, he had spent even more time with it than with his former teammate. No one will ever whisper in a sultry voice at me again. System bro, I miss you. Seeing his grandson sighing so much, Madara floated closer, his voice full of concern. Obito, what's wrong? You've been sighing this whole time. I could tell something was off with you earlier. If anything's bothering you, just tell your grandpa. Obito felt a warmth in his chest and smiled. I'm fine, Grandpa Madara. I just suddenly feel a strong desire to grow even stronger. Before, he had always thought that strength was only necessary up to a certain point. But now, he was desperate to surpass his limits. If the system had been able to reach this world, then surely, he could reach its world too. And if he couldn't, it only meant he wasn't strong enough yet. Then he would grow stronger, so strong that even reality itself couldn't hold him back. Madara was stunned for a moment, then burst into laughter. Ha ha ha. That's the spirit. As expected of my grandson. You're just like me when I was young. Chapter 295, The New Order of the Ninja World. Konohagakure. Inside the Hokage's office. Obito laid out his plan to harness the power of the entire planet to stand against the Akatsuki, to Minato and the others. Minato took a sip of tea, his expression carrying a trace of disapproval. Obito, this is a serious matter. You should have discussed it with us first. Kakashi nodded in agreement, leaning against the wall. This is a high-stakes gamble. If we lose, humanity will be completely wiped out. Obito rubbed his chin, grinning mischievously. There's no way to have a proper discussion about something like this. When personal interests are involved, some people will always fail to see the bigger picture. Besides, by the time we actually reach a consensus, the Akatsuki will probably have already attacked. At that point, humanity will still be doomed. Minato and Kakashi fell silent. If Obito hadn't acted on his own, events likely would have played out exactly as he described. Seeing their reactions, Obito shrugged. That's right, this is a do-or-die gamble. I'm betting everything I have on victory. But since my own chips aren't enough, I had no choice but to bring everyone else in on the bet. Sigh. Minato set down his teacup, letting out a soft chuckle. At this point, there's nothing more I can say. As long as you know what you're doing. His student's growth had long since exceeded his expectations, perhaps even his understanding. It filled Minato with pride, but also with helplessness. Because now, there was hardly anything he could do to help. Obito grinned and hopped onto Minato's desk. Minato-sensei, right now is the perfect time to reshape the power dynamics of the ninja world. I think Konohagakure should seize this opportunity and rise to the top. Minato's eyes lit up, his mind already turning over the possibilities. In that case, Obito, I'll leave this matter to. Before he could finish, Obito firmly nodded. I understand your intentions, Minato-sensei. Leave this to Kakashi. There was a brief pause. Then, Obito patted Kakashi's shoulder with a solemn expression. Kakashi, you must take this responsibility seriously. Don't let Minato-sensei down. Kakashi's face was utterly baffled. Huh? What? Stepping out of the Hokage's office, Obito hummed a tune as he made his way home. Grandma, your grandson has returned from saving the world. His grandmother bustled out of the house, her steps light with energy. She beamed as she ruffled her grandson's hair. I waited and waited, and I finally got to see my hero grandson come home. Obito smirked proudly, hands on his hips. Grandma, you didn't believe me when I said I'd save the world. Now do you believe me? His grandmother promptly smacked him across the head, laughing as she scolded him. You little rascal, getting all cocky with your grandma now? No matter how strong you are outside, at home, you're still my grandson. And if I had the choice, I'd rather you just be an ordinary child. She sighed inwardly but kept smiling. Now, tell me properly, what exactly happened? Obito took her hand, channeling a burst of chakra into her body to revitalize her health. Then, grinning, he began his story. Grandma, here's what happened. Of course, he left out the dangerous parts, telling the tale in a light-hearted, humorous way. Though his grandmother could sense that he wasn't telling her everything, his words still reassured her. After finishing his story, his throat dry from talking, Obito casually grabbed a bottle of juice and took a sip before continuing. Grandma, I recently bought a big house, and it's all set up now. I want you to move in with us. What do you think? His grandmother's eyes revealed a trace of longing, but hesitation quickly followed. Wouldn't an old lady like me be a burden on you and Rin? Obito shook his head, looking at her seriously. Of course not, Grandma. Rin and I would love to have you with us. Besides, when we're both busy, you could help take care of little Hagoromo. Hearing that, his grandmother's face lit up with joy. All right. Then I'll move in and lend you both a hand. I'll help take care of the baby and keep the house in order. Recently, the balance of power in the ninja world had been shifting dramatically. The invasion of that foreign woman had served as a harsh wake-up call to everyone. The greatest threat to humanity wasn't each other, it was the terrifying extraterrestrial foes who could attack again at any moment. With this looming danger, the ninja villages put aside their conflicts and began negotiations for peace. It wasn't long before they reached a common understanding. They had to unite against external threats. Kumogakure, Sunagakure, and the remaining ninja villages all joined the community of destiny. However, new disputes quickly arose. While everyone was now allies, every alliance needed a leader. Otherwise, no matter how powerful the coalition seemed, it would ultimately be nothing more than a scattered mess. So, who would take the helm of this grand alliance? The struggle for leadership turned fierce, with open battles and covert manipulations alike. The game of power among great nations. In this war without smoke or bloodshed, Konohagakure held an overwhelming advantage, bolstered by its savior reputation and support from Yoru village, Akatsuki, and Kirigakure. Unwilling to be sidelined, the major nations of lightning and wind rallied the weaker countries to resist Konoha's dominance. Encouraged by the Land of Lightning's secret maneuvering, the headstrong Land of Forest openly declared war on Konohagakure, accusing it of acting like a tyrant. By the afternoon of that very day, the entirety of the Land of Forest was occupied by Yoru village. Rumors spread that Yoru village's forces were so ruthless that even stray dogs on the roadside got smacked twice. The daimyo of the Land of Forest was dumbfounded. As for the other great nations who had previously voiced support, they all fell silent. We were just cheering you on, we never said we'd actually fight for you. Many leaders had a newfound respect for the daimyo of the Land of Lightning. When trouble arose, he ran fast. And as for the daimyo of the Land of Forest? Well, he had courage, but he wouldn't be around to show it again. After making its power known, Konoha turned to a divide-and-conquer strategy. They proposed 6 governing council seats, open for fair competition among the alliance members. A carrot after the stick. In the end, Konoha, Yoru village, Kirigakure, Akatsuki, Kumovikure, and Iwavikure claimed the 6 seats. The restructuring of power was complete. For the next few decades, war in the ninja world was unlikely. At long last, peace had arrived, albeit belatedly. Future conflicts among the great nations would be fought in economics, technology, policies, and talent, not in battlefields. Ninjas would no longer exist merely as tools of war. They would exist to protect their homes, their people. As weapons of war in a different form. Chapter 296, Konoha Year 57. Konoha Year 57. Land of Fields. Inside the conference room of the Shinobi Alliance Council building, the leaders of the 6 great hidden villages, Wood, Night, Yoru means night, Mist, Akatsuki, Cloud, and Rock, had all gathered. Together, they were discussing and drafting the regulations for further strengthening friendly cooperation among nations. Once the meeting concluded, Obito stretched lazily and turned to the 5th Raikage, Darui, on his right. Raikage, please go on ahead. We still have another small meeting to hold. Darui glanced around the room and noticed that no one else was getting up. So, out of the 6 council members, 5 are on the same side? And the only one left out is me? With a look of resignation, Darui stood up and left. Once he was gone, Obito slumped into his chair with a grin and said, "All right, let's continue our meeting. Kakuzu, you start." Kakuzu's green eyes landed on Obito as he spoke in a solemn tone. "Leader, the current peace in the shinobi world isn't good for the village's financial interests." "Ha, now that's where you're completely wrong, Kakuzu." Obito chuckled, shaking his head. He pulled out a document and slid it across the table toward Kakuzu. "You just need to broaden your perspective. There are plenty of ways to make money." As he spoke, Obito retrieved several more documents and distributed them among the others. Everyone flipped through the pages, their expressions gradually turning thoughtful. Seeing this, Obito smiled and said, "I assume you've all finished reading? If these technologies can be implemented, the profits behind them are obvious." Mei Terumi's beautiful eyes flickered as she cautiously asked, "Hokage, where exactly did you acquire these technologies?" Obito merely smiled without answering. His secret of taking over Kara as an Otsutsuki vessel and obtaining a trove of advanced technology was something only a select few were privy to. And clearly, Mei Terumi was not among them. Realizing that Obito wasn't going to answer, she wisely kept silent. Obito then continued, still smiling, "Everyone is free to invest in the projects that interest them. Once these technologies begin generating revenue, Konoha will ensure you receive a fair share of the returns." Yahiko set down his document with a sigh, remarking, "Little junior brother, you've really put in the effort." In times like these, it's true that the shinobi villages need to start transitioning. Mei nodded slightly and added, "If we can achieve financial independence and free ourselves from the feudal lord's control, our villages will gain much greater influence." Deidara suddenly slammed the table and stood up. "I've been sick of the Earth Daimyo for a long time, yeah. If not for Kuratsuchi stopping me, I would have blown up his palace ages ago, yeah." With Sasori by his side, Deidara had long given up thoughts of rejoining Akatsuki. Staying in Iwagakure let him indulge in both his clay explosives and Kuratsuchi. Life wasn't so bad after all. Seeing Deidara's righteous indignation, Obito burst into laughter. "Well, if our own daimyos ever stop listening to us, we can take turns getting rid of them." Deidara cheered. "Awesome, awesome. It's a deal, leader." They really dare to say that. No, actually, they really would do it. The others simply stared at their noses, pretending they hadn't heard anything. Obito then pulled out another set of documents and handed them out. "Additionally, I plan to dismantle underground money-lending operations everywhere and establish a unified financial institution." The group reviewed the documents, which outlined the various advantages of a new organization called a bank. Kakuzu's eyes grew brighter the more he read. He pounded his chest and declared, "Leader, why not leave this financial management sector to me?" Obito glanced at the others. Any objections? Everyone shook their heads, no objections at all. If anyone could be trusted with money, it was Kakuzu. Obito tapped the table and looked at Kakuzu. Then it's decided. You'll also be in charge of eliminating the underground moneylenders. A rare trace of joy flashed in Kakuzu's green eyes. Leave it to me. I won't disappoint. Obito tapped the table once more, yawning. All right, that about covers everything. One last idea for making money and transitioning the villages. The group perked up, ears tuned in. Obito cleared his throat, looking pleased with himself. Thanks to yours truly, many nobles from the major nations have realized the importance of individual strength. Every day, I receive requests from nobles wanting their children or bodyguards to train in Konoha and learn chakra techniques. May, ever the cooperative one, nodded slightly and responded. We've encountered something similar in Kirigakure. So, Hokage, you're suggesting. Obito rubbed his chin, smirking mischievously. I'm saying if they want to learn, that's a good thing, we should support them. As for tuition, let's set it at 1 million ryo per student. Oh, 1 million ryo? Even Kakuzu was stunned. He suddenly felt ashamed as he reflected, leader is right. There are so many ways to make money. I've been thinking too small. Today, Obito had opened an entirely new door for him. A militarized organization transitioning into an education institution and making even more money than before. After the meeting, Obito used Kamui to warp straight back to Konoha. Without a word, he collapsed onto his custom-made sofa chair in the Hokage's office. Being Hokage is such a pain. There's way too much to do every day. Across from him, Riku pointed at a towering stack of documents on his own desk and snapped. I'm the one handling all these files. Kakashi takes care of everything else. We haven't complained, yet all you did was attend a single meeting, and you're whining? Just thinking about it annoyed Riku. He regretted ever agreeing to be Obito's Hokage assistant. Assistant? More like doing all the work. He might as well be Hokage himself. Obito chuckled sheepishly, patting DS' shoulder in consolation. My bad, my bad. Keep up the good work, I won't bother you anymore. I'm out. And just like that, Obito ditched work again. Riku. That was the 28th time this month. And the month only had 28 days. Sighing heavily, Obito trudged home. Seeing her husband's weary expression, Rin wrapped her arms around him from behind, whispering gently in his ear. What's wrong, dear? Obito sighed dramatically. Being Hokage is exhausting. Nowhere near as fun as I imagined. By the way, where's little Hagoromo? And Grandma? Rin lightly bit his ear and murmured, Grandma is putting Hagoromo to bed. Since you're so tired, why don't we go rest too? With Grandma watching over him. Obito pulled Rin into his arms and whisked her into the Kamui dimension. As he stretched, he began venting again. Blah blah blah, grumble grumble. Rin's cheeks flushed. To wear the crown, you must bear its weight, Obito-kun. Since you chose to be Hokage, you must shoulder your responsibilities. Obito's expression shifted into deep contemplation. To wear the crown, you must bear its weight. I get it now, Rin-chan. At the end of Konoha year 57, Uchiha Obito resigned as the 5th Hokage. A completely bewildered Hatake Kakashi succeeded him, becoming the 6th Hokage. Chapter 297, Shisui and Mei. Konoha, year 58. As the Hokage with the shortest tenure in history, Obito's retirement life was simple and carefree. With the ninja world now at peace, everyone focused on harmonious development, leaving him with little to worry about. His days were filled with training, spending time with family, and looking after his children. When he wasn't at home, he was out exploring the world with his friends and brothers, indulging in food, drink, and adventure. A truly happy and unburdened life. Papa, hug! A soft, childish voice rang out. A little boy with short black hair and a round, chubby face wobbled forward, toddling excitedly towards Obito. He was none other than Obito and Rin's son, Uchiha Hagoromo. Obito crouched down with a wide grin, scooping the boy into his arms. Haha, come here. Papa's got you. He lifted little Hagoromo high into the air, letting him ride on his shoulders. The child gripped Obito's head tightly, his words slightly stuttering. Papa, Rin. Rin-chan? Because Obito constantly called Rin Rin-chan at home, their son had picked up the habit before even learning to say Mama properly. Obito chuckled and explained, Mama went to work. She'll be back tonight. Oh Papa, fly. Ha ha ha, understood. Obito leaped into the air, soaring through the sky while Hagoromo giggled in delight. However, in his excitement, the little one lost control and peed on Obito's neck. With an exasperated look, Obito landed and quickly handed the child over to his grandmother before heading inside to change his clothes. Just then, a message from his shadow clone reached him. Madara was calling for him. Without hesitation, he activated Kamui and teleported to Ryochi Cave. As soon as he arrived, Obito sensed an overwhelming aura of destruction and narrowed his eyes. Grandpa Madara, what's this? Seeing his grandson appear, Madara raised a hand and laughed. Perfect timing, Obito. I want you to witness this. In his palm, a black, flame-like mass flickered between reality and illusion, radiating a terrifyingly destructive energy. Even the space around him warped under its influence. Obito's expression twisted. This thing can even devour space. Isn't this basically the void swallowing flame? Madara's eyes gleamed with pride. This is a new technique I developed by combining wind, fire, lightning, earth, yin, and yang release. I call it extinction release, a terrifying power capable of erasing everything. I'm just one step away. One step from unlocking the legendary Kekki Mora. Obito immediately straightened up and gave Madara a thumbs up. Grandpa, you're insane. I have nothing but respect for you. 2-element fusion creates a Kekki Genkai. 3-element fusion creates a Kekki Toda. And now, Madara had taken it even further. Grandpa, I think we should call extinction release something else. How about bloodline supremacy? Bloodline supremacy, huh? Not bad. The two exchanged glances and burst into hearty laughter. Ha 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 ha. After 10 minutes, Madara calmed down and looked at Obito with his hands behind his back. Obito, how's your connection with that other incarnation? Obito revealed the black karma mark on his palm, grinning. Making good progress. We can already share memories and sensations through it. Now we just need to strengthen the link so we can maintain constant synchronization. Madara nodded slightly and sat cross-legged. Since your main body is here, train with me for a few days. I have some new ideas that require your assistance. Obito sat across from him. Alright, Grandpa, let's hear it. Madara smirked, eyes burning with ambition. I intend to fuse Senjutsu Chakra into extinction release. If I succeed, I might create a power surpassing Kekki Mora itself. Obito sucked in a sharp breath. Damn, Grandpa, you're really going for it. Time is like cleavage, if you squeeze, you'll always find more. After months of training with Madara, Obito made his way to Kirigakure. As Shirsue's family representative, he was here to attend his wedding with Terumi Mei. Strictly speaking, the Uchiha clan never outright banned intermarriage with outsiders, but it was definitely discouraged. Uchiha Izumi, for example, had faced discrimination as a child because her father wasn't an Uchiha. However, with Obito's current status, no one dared to gossip about him or Shirsue. Even when some clan members learned of Shirsue's marriage to an outsider, their only response was mild disapproval. To them, Obito scoffed, "You're thinking too small. This isn't a loss of Uchiha bloodline, it's an expansion. If my dear little brother works hard and raises enough kids, in a few generations, Kirigakure will be filled with Uchihas." The wedding itself wasn't extravagant. Compared to Obito and Rin's wedding, it was rather simple. But the smiles on Shisui and Mei's faces were just as radiant. Arriving at the venue, Obito grinned. I am here to feast. Seeing Obito, Shisui lit up with joy. He clasped his cousin's hand, his voice filled with sincerity. Obito, I'm so glad you came. Choosing to stay in Kiridikure for love had been a difficult decision for Shisui. The sweetness of his relationship with Mei didn't fully ease the loneliness of living in a foreign land. Though Obito made sure he visited Konoha during the holidays, it wasn't quite the same. Sigh the future of Konoha. I'll have to leave that to Obito. Obito smirked mysteriously and patted Shisui's shoulder. I didn't come alone. Shisui's eyes widened with anticipation. Could it be? Purple light flickered in Obito's eyes as he activated Kamui. The next moment, 3 familiar figures appeared before Shisui. His eyes instantly welled up. Grandmother. Father. Itachi? Uchiha snorted and turned away with a huff. They say raising children helps in old age, but look at you, running off to another village. Father. Shisui looked embarrassed, while Mei instinctively tensed up. Looks like my in-laws aren't too fond of me, but that's only natural. After all, I stole their precious son. Realizing his tone was too harsh, Kawa sighed and spoke more gently. But at least you have good taste. Take care of her properly, understood? Father, you approve? Shisui's eyes lit up, and he eagerly nodded. Yes. I will. Meanwhile, Grandmother Uchiha examined Mei carefully. Good figure. Wide hips. She'll bear strong children. Smiling warmly, she took Mei's hand and started chatting enthusiastically. Mei was caught off guard but quickly grew elated. She had braced herself for rejection, yet she was being welcomed with open arms. With their family's blessing, the couple completed their wedding in joy. As the ceremony concluded, Obito and Chojuro led the guests in chanting, Kiss! Kiss! Shisui was flustered, but before he could react, Mei pulled him in and captured his lips. Seeing this, Obito hooped. Woo! Watching Shisui and Mei's happiness, Itachi's mind drifted to a familiar image of a girl in a purple kimono. Izumi. Chapter 298, Konoha Year 59. Another page turns, and another year passes. Konoha Year 59. Inside the Uchiha household. Sasuke clung tightly to Itachi's sleeve, his expression stubborn. Ni-san, you promised you'd train with me when you had time. Sasuke. Itachi sighed helplessly. He glanced apologetically at Izumi, who had been waiting patiently at the side. Izumi met his gaze and gave him a reassuring look, as if to say, It's fine. She crouched slightly and smiled at Sasuke. Sasuke, how about taking a break today and going out for a picnic with your big brother and me? Wouldn't that be fun? Sasuke shook his head vigorously like a drum, his resolve unwavering. No way! I want Ni-san to train with me. This kid really doesn't seem to like me, Izumi thought to herself. She recalled when Sasuke was still an infant. The moment he saw her, he would burst into tears. Am I really that scary? Come on! At some point, Itachi had already slipped free from Sasuke's grip. His figure suddenly appeared beside Izumi. That's enough, Sasuke. You'll have to train on your own today. Sasuke threw down the stick he had been holding, his cheeks puffing up in frustration. Ni-san, you used a substitution jutsu. Humph. I'm not talking to you anymore. Izumi chuckled quietly to herself. Sasuke can be pretty cute sometimes. Itachi smiled indulgently, raising 2 fingers and gently pressing them against Sasuke's forehead. Sorry, Sasuke. This will be the last time. As if a switch had been flipped, Sasuke immediately calmed down, leaving Izumi watching in amazement. Itachi ruffled Sasuke's hair and turned to Izumi. Sorry to keep you waiting, Izumi. Let's go. Izumi tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear and smiled. It's no trouble at all. Let's go then, Sasuke. Don't worry, I'll make sure your brother comes back on time tonight. Under Sasuke's sulky gaze, the two of them walked away together. Izumi naturally slipped her arm around Itachi's, whispering and laughing as they strolled. Itachi paused briefly but quickly resumed his steps. Humph. Annoying Izumi. Sasuke huffed in frustration and slammed the door shut. Father and mother aren't home, and now Nisan's gone too. He suddenly felt like an abandoned orphan. Guess I'll have to eat out for lunch. At Ichiraku Ramen. Sasuke happened to run into Naruto, who had also come for a meal. He immediately started venting his frustrations. After listening to Sasuke's complaints, Naruto didn't comfort him at all. Instead, he burst into uncontrollable laughter, nearly face-planting into his ramen bowl. Ha 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 ha. I must have lost my mind telling this idiot anything, Sasuke thought as he slapped some money onto the counter and stood up to leave. Oi, Sasuke, wait up. Naruto hurriedly stuffed the rest of his ramen into his mouth and chased after him. Catching up to Sasuke, he grinned. Since I've got nothing to do this afternoon, how about I train with you? Sasuke crossed his arms, tilted his head, and gave Naruto a disdainful look from head to toe before scoffing. TCH, why would I want a total idiot training me? Damn it, Sasuke! Naruto clenched his fists, waving them dramatically. I'm your senior. Show me some respect. Sasuke sneered, his expression full of arrogance. Stop fooling yourself, Naruto. I've never considered you my senior. His face practically screamed, what are you gonna do about it? You mad? Go ahead, try me. Sasuke. Naruto. A vein popped on Naruto's forehead as frustration boiled inside him. Just wait till you graduate, I'm gonna request to be your team leader. Let's see how you handle that, Databeo. Naruto wasn't just bragging. In Konoha, he did hold some weight. His father was the 4th Hokage, and his two senpais were the 5th and 6th. Forget walking, he could probably crawl through the streets and no one would dare say a thing. The two of them headed toward the training grounds, walking side by side. By the way, Naruto. Sasuke glanced at him and suddenly said, there's a girl in our class who seems to really admire you. Naruto, who had been single since birth, nearly jumped with excitement. But then it hit him, wait a second, Databeo. Sasuke's in his class, which means the girl must be, what, 11? His excitement instantly evaporated, replaced by dread. But he was still curious. Who is it? Sasuke absent-mindedly twirled a kunai in his hand. Hyuga Hinata. She doesn't talk much, kind of a boring girl. Hyuga clan, a little girl. Naruto's eyes suddenly widened as if he had realized something. No way? Sasuke stopped twirling his kunai and looked at Naruto. But then Naruto scratched his head and laughed. Ha ha ha. Never mind, I have no idea who that is, Databeo. Sasuke, Naruto, you idiot. At Obito's mansion. 3 men and 3 women sat around the table, chatting and enjoying their meal together. Rin blinked her large eyes, sighing. Ever since we graduated, it's been ages since we all gathered like this. Obito put down his cup and immediately agreed. Exactly. You guys are always so busy, getting you all in one place is impossible. Kakashi rolled his eyes. That's your fault. Do you have any idea how exhausting being Hokage is? Obito shrugged. Of course I do. That's exactly why I made you do it. Kakashi. Damn it, that actually makes sense. I have no comeback. Shikayu casually placed some food onto Ryoko's plate and smirked. Kakashi's way more reliable than you. At least he doesn't dump all the paperwork on me to handle. Obito, thick-skinned as ever, remained unfazed. Hoping to smooth things over, Shinza laughed. With mentors like yours, you must all make them very proud. The group exchanged knowing smiles. Obito chuckled. No doubt about it. Just the other day, I ran into Sensei. He still brags about us to anyone who will listen. And why wouldn't he? Two Hokage and a Hokage's advisor, how many mentors could boast about that? They laughed, enjoying the peaceful evening. Outside, the children ran in, exhausted from playing, each finding their mother for food. Looking at the silver-haired girl in Shinzu's arms, Obito, slightly tipsy, joked. Kakashi, our kids are about the same age and get along well. How about we arrange a marriage? Shikayu laughed. You'd have to get in line. My son likes her too. Laughter filled the house, carried far into the gentle evening breeze. Chapter 299, Starship Takamagara. The 10-year deadline had arrived. Akatsuki, Obito, and Kagaya met once again at their designated location. You're truly incredible. Kagaya scrutinized Obito from head to toe, her captivating eyes shimmering with intrigue. From your demeanor and words, I can't discern even the slightest flaw. Obito tilted his head, casting a sidelong glance at Kagaya, his voice calm. I am a Shiki. Remember that. I don't want to repeat myself. Kagaya stiffened, nodding obediently as she mused inwardly. This human's presence is no different from Ishiki's back then. With his hands clasped behind his back, Obito slowly ascended into the air, his expression indifferent. We've lingered on this planet long enough. It's time to leave. We've exceeded our expected harvesting period by several centuries. Kagaya inclined her head slightly. I understand. Her feet lifted off the ground. She followed behind Obito, just as she had once trailed behind Ishiki. The spacecraft they had used to reach Earth had long since deteriorated beyond repair. However, whether it was Kagaya's Yamatsu Hirasaka or Obito's Kamui, both were exceptionally efficient for travel. With the correct spatial coordinates in mind, returning to the celestial homeland, Takamagara, would cost them nothing more than a bit of chakra. During the dull and repetitive spatial jumps, Obito multitasked, sifting through the memories of the Akatsuki clan stored in his mind. The Akatsuki were a diligent race, tirelessly traversing the cosmos, sowing and harvesting. Thinking about this, he couldn't help but hum a tune. I planted a seed, and at last, it has grown into. Ahem. Noticing Kagaya's peculiar gaze, Obito quickly snapped back into his Ishiki persona, banishing idle thoughts and focusing on more pressing matters. With Ishiki's memories fully integrated, his understanding of the Akatsuki clan was now on par with that of their original members. Currently, the entire Akatsuki race resided aboard a massive stellar-class starship, their celestial homeland, Takamagara. Despite their civilization's technological and individual prowess far surpassing Earth's, the population of the Akatsuki clan remained shockingly low. To them, having children meant diluting their own power. Even after tens of thousands of years, their total population had never exceeded 5 figures. Scientifically speaking, this makes sense. It's just like the energy transfer principle I learned in biology class. Among the mere thousands of Akatsuki, the strongest was their current leader, Kagaya's father, Akatsuki Tsukin. His name is derived from Japan's Kojiki mythos. Ishiki had not been weak himself. 1,000 years ago, he had ranked among the top 30 in the clan. Kagaya, before consuming the chakra fruit, had ranked outside the top 50. This difference explained why, despite both being from the main family, Ishiki had held a higher status than her. The Akatsuki possessed 100 divine trees. Only those with significant strength had the privilege of cultivating them, a lucrative position. As long as they delivered the required quota of chakra fruits to the main family on time, any surplus could be kept for themselves. Because of this, the competition to secure such a position was fierce, akin to obtaining an ironclad government job in human society. As Obito pondered these matters, his brow furrowed. Come to think of it, there are things I still don't fully understand. Many facts that the Akatsuki took for granted seemed odd to an outsider like him. For example, Obito abruptly halted, turning to Kagaya. Kagaya, have you ever wondered where the divine trees come from? Kagaya looked confused, unsure why Obito would ask such a thing. I don't know. I've never thought about it. Obito nodded slightly and resumed flying forward, dropping the topic. To him, the existence of the divine trees was highly suspicious. It wasn't strange that they absorbed a planet's nutrients and bore fruit. But their fruit wasn't for their own reproduction, it functioned more like an emotionless energy extraction machine designed solely to serve the Akatsuki clan. That was abnormal. It went against the basic principle of biological self-preservation. Its purpose is too deliberate. Obito narrowed his eyes, murmuring to himself. The divine trees aren't a product of natural evolution. They must be artificial. Yet, after tens of thousands of years, the number of divine trees had only declined. If they were indeed artificial, then their creators were not the Akatsuki, but someone else entirely. A chilling realization crept into his mind. And another thing. Akatsuki Tsukin's power level. We've arrived? Obito's eyes widened. Before him, an enormous starship loomed in the boundless void. Even though he had seen its full form in his Shiki's memories, witnessing it firsthand still left him in awe. This was a disc-shaped starship. No, it resembled a colossal metallic beast. Its immense size dwarfed even Earth's largest aircraft carriers several times over. A smooth, streamlined exterior, covered in countless external weapon systems. This visual impact is insane. Obito muttered under his breath. For a brief moment, an instinctive sense of dread washed over him, his biological warning system screaming of danger. He knew he was currently being locked onto by high-energy particle beams, electromagnetic rail cannons, and other weapon systems. But the feeling vanished as quickly as it had come. Clearly, Takamagara had verified both his and Kagaya's identities. The two steadily approached the starship. A hatch silently opened, allowing them inside. Just then, an emotionless electronic voice echoed. "Welcome back, Lord Akatsuki Ashiki, Lady Akatsuki Kagaya." Obito instinctively shuddered, but he quickly regained composure. He and Kagaya proceeded deeper into the ship at an unhurried pace. As they walked, various Akatsuki clansmen they encountered respectfully bowed. "Lord Ashiki. Lady Kagaya." Neither of them acknowledged the greetings. Their heads remained high, gazes haughty and aloof. Traversing the massive ship, they soon arrived at a restricted area accessible only to the Akatsuki main family. Observing the lavish surroundings, Obito smirked. The Akatsuki main family numbers less than 100, yet they occupy 90% of the ship's space. No matter where you go, power dictates resource distribution. Just as they reached an opulent chamber to present their quota, two figures emerged from within. One was a massive, burly man over 2 meters tall, his arms thicker than Obito's legs. Akatsuki Kinshiki, ranked 57th in the clan. The other was a slender man with an elegant face, draped in noble robes, wooden sandals on his feet. Without speaking, a stranger might mistake him for an aristocratic lady. Akatsuki Momoshiki. Seeing Obito and Kagaya, Momoshiki didn't step aside. Instead, he approached directly with Kinshiki in tow. Hovering above Kagaya, he smirked condescendingly. Well. Delayed for centuries. I was starting to think you had defected." Kagaya's expression shifted slightly, she dared not argue. Momoshiki ranked 32nd in the clan, far above her. "I merely encountered unforeseen circumstances during the mission. That is why I was delayed." Momoshiki lightly tapped his fan against Kagaya's shoulder, feigning nonchalance. "Centuries late. That's not something easily brushed off with a simple excuse." Chapter 300, Divine Selection Tournament, Challenge. Obito took a step forward and slowly pushed away Momoshiki's fan. "That's enough, Momoshiki. You should know when to stop." Momoshiki narrowed his eyes slightly, twirling the fan in his hand as he spoke. "Ishiki, are you standing up for this woman? That's not like you." Unfazed, Obito remained calm and responded indifferently. "Scolding Kagaya right in front of me, it almost feels like you're trying to say something else, doesn't it?" Indirectly pointing fingers, perhaps? Momoshiki scoffed and lightly fanned himself. It was just a joke. Don't get the wrong idea. I have no interest in making an enemy out of you. Their status and strength were evenly matched. Unless absolutely necessary, Momoshiki had no desire to offend his shiki. Perhaps to ease the tension, or maybe for other reasons, he covered the lower half of his face with his fan and smirked playfully. Oh, right. Tenshiki seems quite unhappy that your group possesses 2 god trees. At the next Divine Selection Tournament in 100 years, you'd better be careful. Don't end up dead at her hands. Obito brushed past Momoshiki without stopping, his tone steady. With our relationship, you needn't trouble yourself over me, Momoshiki. Seeing this, Kaguya quickly followed after him. Ishiki, wait for me. Momoshiki's expression darkened slightly as he turned to leave in the opposite direction. Kinshiki, let's go. Inside the ship's cabin, Obito and Kaguya began submitting their mission gains. The offering of the God Tree's fruit was entirely automated, requiring no manual input. Thus, Obito's mind was entirely occupied with Momoshiki's words. Divine Selection Tournament. Akatsuki Tenshiki. Tilting his head slightly, countless thoughts flickered through Obito's mind. The Divine Selection Tournament was held every 2,000 years, a grand event for the Akatsuki clan. It was a martial competition to determine which clan members were qualified to plant god trees. Additionally, those dissatisfied with the current distribution of resources could challenge others in battle, demanding a redistribution of benefits. In the end, everything was decided by strength. Obito stroked his chin, lost in thought. Because I've achieved outstanding results over the past few quarters and received an extra god tree, that woman got jealous? Tenshiki's strength was comparable to Ishiki's, so it was entirely possible that she would challenge him in the upcoming tournament. As if recalling something amusing, Obito's lips curled into a sinister smile. Heh. Akatsuki Tenshiki, you want my god tree? Well, I want your dojutsu. For some reason, Kaguya felt a sudden chill down her spine upon seeing Obito's eerie grin. What terrifying thought is this human entertaining? Why does he look so sinister? 100 years later. In the vast void 10,000 miles from the starship Takamagara, a tall and imposing Akatsuki man stood with his hands clasped before him, his expression devout in prayer. He was none other than the leader of the Akatsuki clan, Akatsuki Tsukin. Around him, approximately 300 Akatsuki clan members formed a circle, with him at the center. Under Tsukin's guidance, they raised their voices in fervent prayer. After all, not everyone was qualified to participate in the Divine Selection Tournament. Only those strong enough to withstand the erosion of the void were granted the honor of taking part in this sacred event. To them, participation in the tournament was the highest form of glory. The Akatsuki clan worshipped a deity known as Tenjin. It was said that in the Akatsuki clan's ancient era of ignorance, the true god Tenjin had bestowed wisdom upon Tsukin's father. Since then, the Akatsuki clan gradually developed and ultimately became one of the most terrifying civilizations in the cosmos. Praise be to the true god who does not belong to this world, the enigmatic ruler above the 9 provinces, Tenjin. Although Obito outwardly appeared to pray fervently, his mind was elsewhere. Tsukin's strength. It's something worth noting. There was no doubt that Tsukin was powerful. Even as he simply stood there, the aura he unintentionally exuded was enough to leave others in silent awe. The energy within his body was as blinding as the sun, making it nearly impossible to look directly at him. He could probably kill me with a single punch, but I refused to accept it. However, Tsukin wasn't so overwhelmingly powerful that he shattered Obito's understanding of strength. Something didn't quite add up. Logically speaking, after countless years of diligent cultivation, the Akatsuki clan should have harvested at least hundreds, if not thousands, of chakra fruits. Yet, Tsukin's strength had not reached an absurd level. This was highly intriguing. Had the effects of chakra fruits diminished after consuming a certain number? Or had Tsukin not actually consumed a large number of chakra fruits, but instead stored them away for future use? Obito found the latter possibility more plausible. Piecing together previous thoughts, he arrived at an interesting conclusion. Perhaps all of this is tied to the true god Tenjin. The prayer ceremony lasted for half an hour. Finally, Akatsuki Tsukin lowered his hands from his chest, sweeping his gaze across his clan members before laughing heartily. Well then, let us proceed with the long-awaited divine selection. 300 Akatsuki raised their arms high, cheering excitedly. Woo! It's finally starting. This year, I'm claiming a spot. The god tree is mine. No one better try to take it from me. I've been wanting to deal with you for a long time. I'll make sure to refine you into an elixir. Haha, big words. You'll be nothing but a part of me soon enough. Tsukin watched this scene with a pleased expression. Keeping his people wild and hungry was beneficial for a ruler. Become strong, or become sustenance for the strong. That was the truth the Akatsuki clan lived by. Seeing that the clan members were sufficiently fired up, Tsukin waved his hand and declared in an unquestionable tone. The previous generation's divine selectees stepped forward. At his command, around 60 to 70 figures soared into the air, taking their places behind Tsukin. These were the Akatsuki clan's elite warriors, those qualified to wield god trees. Each one bore expressions of arrogance or disdain as they gazed upon their potential challengers. The remaining Akatsuki, unwilling to show weakness, returned their stares with equal provocation. I challenge the 68th ranked Akatsuki Haimahachi. Damn it! That was my target. Fine, then I challenge the 67th. I challenge the 65th, Akatsuki Take Torai. Akatsuki Kinshiki, do you dare fight me? 61st. 57th. Challenged divine selectees had no choice but to accept, or they would forfeit their status. Thus, one by one, the named warriors stepped forward, sneering as they clashed with their challengers, vanishing into the distance to find suitable battlefields. A total of 11 lower-ranked selectees were challenged. Meanwhile, the higher-ranked ones remained untouched. The Akatsuki were battle-hungry, but they weren't fools. They naturally picked the easiest targets. Now then. Tsukin turned his gaze toward the divine selectees, his lips curling into a smile. Do any of you wish to challenge each other? A tall and striking woman stepped forward, Akatsuki Tenshiki. Her eyes burned with battle lust as she spoke with a sharp edge. Tsukin, I challenge the 27th ranked Akatsuki Ashiki. According to the rules, since we are close in rank, he cannot refuse. Chapter 301, Battle against Akatsuki Tenshiki. Akatsuki Tenshiki ranked 25th within the Akatsuki clan. Though her strength was not vastly different from Ashiki's, her status was slightly higher. In the last divine selection, Ashiki had taken what should have been hers, the share of the second divine tree. Because of that, she was determined to reclaim her divine tree in this selection. Challenges between chosen candidates were rare. Tsukin's interest was immediately piqued as he turned to Obito, who stood calmly among the crowd. Ashiki, what do you say? Obito slowly floated forward, giving a slight bow toward Tsukin. I accept Tenshiki's challenge with the highest honor of our clan. The crowd erupted in excitement. Oh! The highest honor of the Akatsuki clan, the duel of both victory and death. The winner would claim absolute dominance over the loser, including their very life. Upon hearing this, Kagaya's expression changed slightly. Is he insane? Tenshiki is clearly much stronger than she was 1,000 years ago. Momoshiki casually flicked open his fan, a smirk forming on his lips. This is going to be interesting. Tsukin's grin widened as he turned to Tenshiki. Tenshiki, what say you? Tenshiki hadn't expected Obito to agree to a duel to the death, but she showed no fear. Instead, she sneered at him coldly. Since you're so eager to die, I'll grant your wish. I accept this duel. Tsukin nodded slightly, clapping his hands together. Very well. You may begin. Humph. Tenshiki let out a cold snort and shot off like a streak of light, speeding toward the distance. Obito followed at a steady pace, his figure cutting through the sky like a shooting star. The two halted in the void, facing each other. Tenshiki turned, her eyes shimmering with an unusual light. I originally only planned to break your limbs and take back the divine tree. But you insist on throwing your life away, Ishiki. Obito tilted his head slightly and smiled, his tone calm. Are you so sure you've already won? Tenshiki licked her lips, rolling her shoulders as she warmed up. I should be asking you that. Your strength hasn't improved at all over the past millennium. Where does your confidence come from in a duel to the death with me? Obito smiled faintly, his voice lighthearted. Chakra levels don't determine true strength. You'll see soon enough where my confidence comes from. Since he had dared to challenge Tenshiki to a life-and-death battle, Obito had his reasons. Kamui was his trump card. With his current chakra reserves and eye power, Kamui's effectiveness was on an entirely different level from before. As long as I land just one solid hit, she's finished. Tenshiki remained unfazed, curling her finger in a taunting gesture. Enough talk. Let's see what you've got, Ishiki. As you wish. Dekokuden. Obito gave a low shout. In an instant, countless black rods appeared, stabbing toward Tenshiki's body. However, she didn't even attempt to dodge, letting the rods strike her. Crack, crack. The black rods, imbued with yin-yang release, were as fragile as twigs against her skin. They shattered upon impact, disintegrating into nothingness. Obito's thoughts raced. Damn, she's tough. Who wouldn't want a tanky, curvy battle queen? He knew what this was, Tenshiki's dojutsu, Duhin. A deity from a certain myth, said to be as hard as stone. Under Duhan's effect, her body was invulnerable, and her attacks became devastating. You already know that won't work on me, HAH. Tenshiki let out a sharp cry, swinging a fist at Obito. It was no exaggeration, her punch tore through space itself. Even the surrounding area began to distort under the pressure. Obito's expression darkened, he couldn't afford to take that punch head-on. But he also didn't want to reveal Kamui too soon. Instead, he twisted his body at the last second, narrowly dodging the blow. Missing her mark, Tenshiki immediately pivoted and swung her leg down toward him. Damn, those legs, white! He had a moment to admire the view, but it didn't stop him from reacting. Sliding sideways, he summoned two black cubes and sent them crashing toward Tenshiki. Swish! Tenshiki swiftly changed her stance, her slender leg whipping upward. Though her leg looked delicate, it shattered the black cubes on impact. What the hell? This tank counters all my flashy moves. Her dojutsu countered Ishiki's techniques, and her chakra reserves were superior. No wonder she was so confident. Boom! 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 At first, they fought on even ground. But soon, Obito was being relentlessly pursued and overwhelmed. Smack! At one point, he attempted to strike Tenshiki's chest with his palm. It felt like slapping a steel plate, he almost shattered his own wrist. How am I supposed to win this? If he hit her, she didn't even flinch. If she hit him, he'd be coughing up blood. No choice. I need to change the battlefield. Time to play dirty. I'll bait her in first. With that thought, Obito abandoned defense and engaged her in close combat. From afar, Kagaya was panicking. What are you doing? Why are you fighting her up close? Momoshiki glanced at her and smirked. Ishiki has lost his composure. Looks like you'll need a new partner soon. At that moment, Roronoa Zoro, same voice actor, no, wait. The fishing-obsessed Akatsuki Urashiki drifted over, commenting lazily. Momo, you're mistaken. Look more closely. If Momoshiki had eyebrows, they'd be furrowed right now. How many times must I tell you? Don't call me that. Understood? Urashiki nodded repeatedly, flashing a sly grin. Got it, Momo. Momoshiki. Letting out a long breath, Momoshiki ignored him and refocused on the battle. As he observed carefully, he began to notice something strange. Though Ashiki was being pummeled and bleeding, his movements remained steady, without panic. Momoshiki frowned. Is he letting himself get hit on purpose? But why? Far away. Boom! Obito was once again sent flying by Tenshiki's attack, his body spinning through the air. Ha! Tenshiki refused to give him any breathing room, chasing after him like a missile, leaving shockwaves in her wake. Now! Obito's eyes gleamed as a red-black vortex appeared, swallowing both of them. Seeing this, Momoshiki was stunned. He faked all that just to lure her into a separate dimension? Urashiki was equally bewildered. That's it? Just changing the battlefield? What difference does that make? Even Tsukine shook his head slightly in disappointment. But among the spectators, only Kagaya was thrilled. He's going to use that dojutsu to counter Duhan. She clenched her fists excitedly. Go, human! Do whatever it takes to survive. Chapter 302, Luring the Prey, the Trump Card. This was a bleak, lifeless space. The ground was composed of rectangular slabs of varying sizes, pieced together in an irregular pattern. After carefully sensing the surroundings, Tenshiki let out a scoff. Just an ordinary subspace. You went through all that trouble to lure me here, just for this? Obito's lips curled into a mysterious smile. This isn't just any subspace. This is my personal Kamui dimension. Seeing Obito's confident demeanor, Tenshiki frowned slightly. She couldn't immediately tell whether he was bluffing or not. To be safe, I should leave this place first. A white glow flashed in Tenshiki's eyes as she activated her space-time nojutsu. KRRKK. A swirling vortex of red and black energy began to form and expand. But just as it was about to take shape, a sudden disruption sent violent ripples through the space. ZZZT, pop. A sound like a bursting bubble echoed. The vortex had barely reached half a person's height before it collapsed on itself. Tenshiki. This was the first time she had ever encountered such a situation. Heh. Obito chuckled softly, tilting his head to look at her. This is my domain. Once you enter, you're not leaving. Now then, are you ready to die, Tenshiki? Damn it! Realizing the battle was slipping out of her control, a ripple of unease surged in Tenshiki's heart. Now! Obito caught the shift in her emotions and seized the opportunity. His eyes gleamed with a multicolored light. Tsukuyami. Tenshiki's eyes widened in shock. Omega, Nani? Her vision trembled violently. The sky and earth seemed to invert. At the same time, a blood-red moon emerged in her sight, casting an eerie glow. Bling bling. Under the endless crimson radiance, her consciousness wavered for a brief moment. Winky face. Seeing this, Obito's face lit up with excitement. Holy crap, it worked on the first try. My luck's great today. Without hesitation, he shut his own eyes and entered the Tsukuyami world. When Tenshiki regained awareness, she found herself in a suffocating, blood-red space. She remained on high alert, carefully assessing her current state. After a quick check, her expression darkened. Separating my soul, chakra, and body. At that moment, a slow clap echoed. Obito appeared before her, smirking. Figuring out your predicament so quickly? As expected of you, Tenshiki. So, have you prepared yourself to submit to me? Tenshiki's cold gaze sharpened as she responded in an icy tone. No wonder you're so confident. You've awakened a new dojutsu. But who told you that my Duhan only applies to my body? Obito, Sigma, what the hell? Humph. Tenshiki narrowed her eyes slightly and glanced at the crimson mist behind her, sneering. Why don't you call your hidden helper to join in? I despise sneaky rats. Obito scratched his head, a bit embarrassed. Ah, you caught that too, huh? The blood mist behind Tenshiki churned, and a hazy figure gradually emerged. Loud, unrestrained laughter filled the air. Ha ha ha! Before she could see the person, she had already heard their voice. When Tenshiki finally got a clear look, her expression subtly shifted. The newcomer bore distinct Akatsuki traits, and her instincts screamed that this individual was a genuine threat. But all of the clan members capable of harming her were currently at the Divine Selection Tournament. What the hell is going on? Tenshiki's voice wavered slightly as she demanded. Who are you? There is no such person in my clan. Obito grinned and gestured toward the figure. Let me introduce you, this is my dear Grandpa Madara, a battlefield legend known as the Crimson Rose. Madara rolled his eyes, his Rinnegan 6 tomo gleaming in annoyance. TCH, brat, do you have to joke about your grandpa all the time? Tenshiki's gaze flickered between Madara and Obito. As realization dawned on her, her face turned pale with shock. You're not as Shiki. You too. I have to survive and report this to Tsukine. Someone has infiltrated the Akatsuki clan. This is a conspiracy against us. Her expression hardened with resolve. I will escape from here. Obito stroked his chin, smirking maliciously. Heh. Now that you know too much, do you really think we'll let you leave? The only ones who can keep a secret are those whose souls have been erased. Within this world, Obito had complete control over time, space, and matter, limited only by his ocular power. And with both him and Madara wielding abilities beyond Kekkei Toda. If they still couldn't handle Tenshiki, Obito might as well bash his head against a rock. As the two closed in, Tenshiki cursed under her breath. Damn it! Her chakra surged violently as she struggled to break free from Tsukuyomi's constraints. Don't waste your energy. Why not just surrender and let me consume you? Obito's gaze was predatory, his grin chilling. From the moment you stepped in here, your fate was sealed. He raised both hands and clenched them. Let's see how you handle this, hundredfold gravity. Boom! With a mere thought, an unfathomable weight pressed in from all directions, crushing down on Tenshiki. Ugh! She let out a muffled groan. If not for her Duhan, she would have been pulverized instantly. Obito sighed in mild disappointment. This is about as far as I can push it. Glancing at Madara, he smirked. Grandpa Madara, shall we? Madara burst into laughter and stepped up beside him. I came here to fight alongside you, didn't I? Let's go! As they charged forward, their limbs became shrouded in a semi-liquid flame-like aura. Swish! 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 This was a new power, refined by fusing natural energy with Kekkei Toda. Obito had given it a fitting name, Bloodline Overclock. He dashed at Tenshiki first, grinning. Grandpa Madara, let's wrap this up quickly. In the Tsukuyomi world, their sage chakra couldn't replenish easily, meaning Bloodline Overclock wouldn't last long. Madara smirked confidently. Relax, Obito. Finishing this woman off will be a piece of cake. Chapter 303, The 60th Year of Konoha, Extra Story. May 27th, 60th Year of Konoha. Starting this new journal to remind myself to train harder in the latter half of the year. Grandpa Madara has been advancing at an incredible pace, I can't afford to slack off. June 1st. Lord Jiraiya has released a new book. And he even gave me a signed edition. Let's just say, a love for reading is a habit that should never be abandoned. June 2nd. Played cards with my friends. June 3rd. Played cards with Rinchan. June 4th. Played cards with my friends. June 11th. Obito, how could you fall so low? Didn't you say you'd be strong and diligent? Confucius said, I examine myself 3 times a day. I can't keep this up. June 12th. Played cards. September 17th. Haha. The village finally has internet. Even though it's painfully slow and I can only play shogi, I can see hope. I haven't played video games in over 20 years, please, let the kids play MOBA and FPS games soon. September 21st. Attended Itachi and Izumi's wedding today. In this life, they finally got a happy ending. Getting married at 17 is pretty normal in this world. Of course, some people in the clan started gossiping behind their backs again, complaining that the young clan head was marrying someone with impure Uchiha blood. So, being the good big brother I am, I activated my Susanoo and went door to door, discussing the matter with them. Spoiled them too much. In the end, they were all left speechless. But honestly, the ones who took it the hardest were Naruto and Sasuke. Their expressions at the wedding were absolutely priceless. I should have snapped a picture. The way they looked so heartbroken, you'd think Itachi had stolen their brides. All the little ones have all grown up. Even little Hagoromo has started talking back lately. For a moment, I suddenly felt old. Sigh. Obito closed the journal, chuckling to himself with a hint of nostalgia. Alright, time to get to work. His grandmother was off at the square for her dance session, and Rinchan had gone to work. He still needed to drop off little Hagoromo somewhere first. With that thought, he turned to the small figure wandering nearby and smiled. Hagoromo, Daddy has something to do later. How about I drop you off at Grandpa Sakumo's house? Hagoromo shook his little head and replied in a soft voice, No, it's more comfortable at home. Obito rubbed his chin, an idea forming. Little Sayuri is also at Grandpa Sakumo's house these days. That's Sayuri Hataki, Kakashi's little daughter. At the mention of the silver-haired lowly, Hagoromo's eyes lit up. Daddy, when are we leaving? Obito. Is my son being influenced by Kakashi? He scooped Hagoromo up, used Kamui, and arrived at Sakumo's doorstep. Hey! Setting the boy down, he knocked on the door. Uncle Sakumo, are you home? Hagoromo mimicked him, calling out, Sayuri, Sayuri, are you home? Sakumo opened the door with a warm smile, a little shadow peeking out from behind him. Obito, what brings you here today? Before Obito could respond, Hagoromo had already dashed inside, grabbing Sayuri's hand and pulling her away excitedly. Ah! Obito scratched his head awkwardly and gestured toward his son. Uncle Sakumo, I have something to take care of. Could you watch this little rascal for the day? Sakumo chuckled heartily. Of course, leave him to me. Hee hee, then I'll leave him in your hands. After leaving Sakumo's house, Obito headed toward Konoha Hospital. At the hospital entrance, a familiar figure was waiting. Seeing Obito approach, the figure hurriedly stepped forward and greeted him with respect. Sensei, you're here. Obito nodded slightly and patted the young man's shoulder. Kabuto, have you learned anything useful from Orochimaru these past 2 years? Kabuto adjusted his glasses, his lenses flashing as he pondered. Orochimaru is a very talented individual. I've learned a great deal from him. Obito nodded in satisfaction. Good. Now, let's go, I've arranged a new teacher for you. A good student should learn from a variety of masters. Besides, having someone else train his disciple saved him the trouble. As they reached Tsunade's office, Obito suddenly stopped, signaling Kabuto to listen closely. Hee, and then we hee. Obito immediately recognized that laugh. That pervy laugh. Lord Jiraiya. Listening to the conversation inside, Obito's grin turned mischievous. Heh, Jiraiya-sama is really bold. For a moment, the office fell silent. Then, Idiot Jiraiya! Get out! Crash! A flower vase flew out, and Jiraiya barely dodged it as he stumbled into the hallway. He looked up, only to see Obito grinning at him. Jiraiya! Clearing his throat, Jiraiya quickly adjusted his robes and acted nonchalant. Ahem, Obito, what brings you here? Obito smirked. I have some business with Lady Tsunade. Is she inside? Jiraiya scratched his head and laughed nervously. Haha, yeah, you can go right in. Seeing Jiraiya looking so guilty, Obito couldn't help but chuckle. Pfft. Jiraiya, straight face. As Obito passed by, he lowered his voice. Jiraiya-sama, I'll be quick. How about you wait for me? Jiraiya, feeling rather dejected, nodded. All right. Not long after, the two walked out of the office, Obito having successfully arranged Kabuto's training. Looking at the depressed Jiraiya, Obito draped an arm around his shoulder with a grin. Cheer up, Jiraiya-sama. How about I treat you to a hot spring? Jiraiya's eyes flickered with interest. Cough. Is it the proper kind? Obito rolled his eyes. Jiraiya-sama, do you not trust me? Would I take you to that kind of place? Jiraiya immediately dragged him along. Let's go, let's go. I need the warmth of the water to wash away my sorrows. At a certain not-so-proper mixed-gender hot spring, two men lounged, grinning as they watched the lively scene before them. Jiraiya sighed. Obito, as a married man, you should visit places like this less often. Obito nodded solemnly. You're absolutely right, Jiraiya-sama. The two exchanged knowing looks and chuckled. Chapter 304, Killing Tenshiki, Dividing the Spoils. Inside the Tsukuyami world. A woman's piercing screams echoed intermittently through the blood-filled mist. Aha! Under the weight of 100-fold gravity, Tenshiki struggled to move. Every step was an ordeal. Let alone defending against the relentless attacks from Obito and Madara. In just a few exchanges, her chakra was already beginning to collapse. Damn it! Damn it! Damn it! Tenshiki clenched her silver teeth so hard they were nearly breaking. The chakra from these two was incredibly strange. It carried the power of annihilation. When it struck her, it bypassed extinction release, inflicting real damage on her. In stark contrast to Tenshiki's growing desperation, Obito and Madara remained composed, attacking with ease while casually chatting. They were truly ruthless. Obito, if we kill this woman here, she won't reincarnate with her memories, will she? Madara asked, stabbing a hole through Tenshiki's body before calmly smiling. Don't worry, Grandpa Madara. The moment she entered the Kamui dimension, her connection to the outside world was severed. Even if she reincarnates later, she won't retain any of her current memories. Their figures clashed again. Madara ripped off one of Tenshiki's arms, causing her to grunt in pain, and then continued speaking. By the way, why didn't you let the kid help this time? After all, he's trained for nearly 100 years, he should be somewhat useful. Obito shook his head, sounding helpless. Grandpa Madara, Hagoromo has barely experienced any real battles on Earth. He might have impressive power, but his combat experience is severely lacking. He's probably no better than the White Snake Sage was back then. Besides, if I brought him along, Rinchan would definitely worry. Obito's tone made it sound as if he had spent the past century with Rin and Hagoromo, looking after them. And in fact, that was exactly the case. Through Kamui, he constantly shared memories and emotions with his counterpart on Earth, acting as both a spy in Takamagara and a devoted family man back home. How to put it, dual existence was truly delightful. Despite their idle conversation, Obito and Madara showed no mercy in their attacks. Soon, Tenshiki's other arm was torn off. Then her left leg. Then her right. Then her torso. Boom! Obito's sharp claws descended, crushing Tenshiki's skull and completely extinguishing her consciousness. Thus, another powerful member of the Akatsuki clan, ranked 25th, had fallen. The moment Tenshiki was slain, a warm current surged through Obito's eyes, slowly transforming them. It's happening, Obito murmured. Since he no longer had access to the system interface, there were no notifications. But he knew. This was the reward left for him by the system. Every time he killed an Akatsuki, he gained a random ability from them. When the transformation was complete, a satisfied smile appeared on Obito's face. He had obtained Duhan. Perfect! Duhan and Kamui, one solid, one intangible, when used together, the results would be devastating. After absorbing Tenshiki's chakra, his strength would increase by at least 30%. At this moment, he could clearly feel the benefits of his reward. Thank you, System Bro. Obito silently expressed his gratitude. He then manipulated the surrounding blood mist, gathering Tenshiki's shattered chakra into a near-solid sphere of energy. After a brief moment of thought, he separated 1/10 of the chakra and pushed it toward Madara. Grandpa Madara, this is for you. Madara didn't hesitate, grabbing the chakra sphere and absorbing it into his body. He knew that only by becoming stronger could he truly help his grandson in the future. As he absorbed the chakra, he asked, Obito, what's your next move? Obito stretched lazily and smirked. There are only about 20 Akatsuki stronger than me now. I plan to continue operating under my Akatsuki identity, taking things slowly. Remaining among the Akatsuki clan meant he could leech off their resources to grow stronger. And during the divine selection ceremonies, he could rightfully plunder their dojutsu. It was the perfect arrangement. The only downside was the sheer length of time involved. Thinking about this, Obito couldn't help but sigh. Sigh, in the Akatsuki clan, where time is measured in thousands or even tens of thousands of years. Who would have thought that, by their standards, I'm still just a 100-year-old kid? Madara frowned slightly but nodded in agreement. It's time-consuming, but it's undoubtedly the safest approach. Obito absorbed the rest of the chakra before taking Madara and leaving the Tsukuyami world, returning to the Kamui dimension. Opening his eyes, Obito glanced at Tenshiki's lifeless body on the ground, hesitating for a moment. Initially, he had planned to refine it into a pill and consume it. But after reconsidering, he realized there wasn't much chakra left in the body. Refining it might not be worth the effort. After all, this was still a perfectly intact Akatsuki body. And it was brimming with life, it was still warm. I'll keep it for now. Maybe I'll toss it to Orochimaru for research later. Or, save it for someone else. Obito chuckled and tossed Tenshiki's body aside. Grandpa Madara, I'm heading back out. Time to keep fooling the Akatsuki. Madara ruffled Obito's hair, his expression filled with concern. Be careful, Obito. Obito felt a warmth in his heart but put on a relaxed front. Don't worry, Grandpa Madara. With my acting skills, there's no way they'll catch on. With that, his eyes gleamed with a rainbow-like glow, and he once again emerged into the vast starry sky. Look! Someone's coming out, it's Ishiki. Countless divine selection candidates turned their heads to watch Obito reappear. Tenshiki hasn't returned. Could it be that she was devoured? I'd love to know what really happened in that alternate space. Humanity is still alive, that's wonderful. Kagaya clenched her tiny fists in excitement, though she wasn't sure why she felt so happy. Momoshiki gently waved his fan, a strange glint in his eyes. To defeat Tenshiki so quickly. Ishiki must have used some kind of trump card. Could it be that he chose to fight in another dimension to hide his true strength? Urashiki leaned close to Momoshiki, squinting. Something feels off, don't you think, little Momo? Momoshiki's face darkened. He turned to Urashiki and enunciated each word carefully. Are you challenging me to a duel, Urashiki? Urashiki quickly waved his hands in surrender, laughing awkwardly. Haha, I was just calling you by a nickname, no need to get worked up. Damn you, Urashiki. Before Momoshiki could snap, Urashiki had already fled with a mischievous grin. Humph. Seeing that Urashiki knew his limits, Momoshiki begrudgingly let it go. Ignoring the murmurs around him, Obito hovered in the air, maintaining Ishiki's cold and aloof demeanor. To think Ishiki would be the victor. Tsukine observed Obito with intrigue. Ishiki, since you defeated Tenshiki, is there anything you desire? Obito bowed slightly toward Tsukine, his voice composed. Tsukine, I would like Tenshiki's team's divine tree. Oh? Tsukin's lips curled into a knowing smile. Chapter 305, The Resource Farming Plan. The Akatsuki's tree planting squads typically operated in pairs. The ownership of the divine tree was determined by the strongest member of the duo. In the case of Tenshiki's team, the divine tree belonged to Tenshiki. According to the highest Akatsuki traditions, if Obito defeated Tenshiki, he had the right to claim everything she possessed, including her divine tree. Leader Tsukin turned his gaze to the weaker member of Tenshiki's team and asked, Chishiki, you've heard Ishiki's request. What's your take on this? Chishiki's expression shifted slightly as he inwardly cursed his misfortune. If even Tenshiki isn't Ishiki's match, what choice do I have? Lowering his head, he clenched his teeth and forced out words that went against his will. Tsukin-sama, Chishiki has no objections. Since that's the case. Tsukin chuckled, then turned back to Obito and announced. Ishiki, as you wish, from this moment onward, Tenshiki's divine tree is yours. Thank you, Tsukin-sama. Obito gave a slight bow before calmly returning to the crowd. While he had initially wanted to use the Divine Selection Tournament as an opportunity to justifiably eliminate another Akatsuki, he ultimately decided against it. It wouldn't align with Ishiki's persona. Instead, he focused his full attention on the ongoing battles between the Akatsuki. I'll memorize all their abilities, then take them down one by one when the time comes. As Obito observed intently, Kaguya suddenly crept up beside him, excitement gleaming in her eyes as she tugged at his sleeve. What does this woman want now? Annoyed, Obito yanked his sleeve free without even glancing at her, keeping his eyes locked on the battlefield. Kaguya, I feel wronged, but I won't say anything. The Divine Selection Tournament lasted for several days, and by the end, dozens of Akatsuki had perished. It was a mix of joy and sorrow. Those who successfully defended their positions or won their challenges were elated, while the losers, well, most of them were no longer alive. The few unfortunate survivors wore expressions of utter despair, looking like they had lost everything. Tsukin clapped his hands lightly, sweeping his gaze over the remaining Akatsuki with a smile. Everyone has earned the position they deserve. That is the essence of the Divine Selection Tournament. Now then, with this assembly concluded, I expect everyone to continue working hard this quarter. The Akatsuki clapped and cheered in unison. Well said, Tsukin-sama. We will definitely plant trees diligently and live up to your expectations. Thank you for hosting the assembly, Tsukin-sama. The scene before him made Obito chuckle. So, no matter where civilization exists, flattery and bootlicking are inevitable, huh? Once the ceremony was over, Obito approached Chishiki with a grin and unceremoniously pulled a hand it over. Facing an Akatsuki stronger than himself, Chishiki had no choice but to hand over his team's divine tree despite his reluctance. Obito swiftly stored away his new acquisition, a satisfied smile spreading across his face. Now, with Kaguya, his Ten-Tails maiden, he possessed 3 divine trees. I need to make good use of these resources and grow stronger quickly, he mused. One by one, the Akatsuki transformed into streaks of light, vanishing into the boundless cosmos. Obito, too, departed from Takamagara alongside his Ten-Tails maiden, setting off on his tree-planting journey for the quarter. Feeding the Ten-Tails with my own body is too inefficient. Obito stroked his chin as a string of outrageous ideas flashed through his mind. Why not use Earth's method, becoming a complete Ten-Tails Jinchuriki? By definition, a Jinchuriki who forms mutual understanding with their tailed beast can fully control its chakra and utilize its unique traits. If he could become the perfect Ten-Tails Jinchuriki, couldn't he just plan himself? That would save him a lot of effort, no middleman, no extra costs. After thinking it over, Obito decided to give it a try. Glancing back at Kaguya, who was lagging behind, he urged impatiently. Kaguya, hurry up. We're leaving. Pouting, Kaguya muttered to herself. Ever since he stopped needing me, this is how he treats me. Humans truly are heartless creatures. Among the trillions of planets in a galaxy, the odds of one developing life, and even evolving intelligent life, were less than 1 in 10 billion. In other words, finding a life-bearing planet was incredibly rare, even if one searched deliberately for a lifetime. Thus, absorbing energy from lifeless planets didn't trouble Obito's conscience in the slightest. Speaking of which, Obito glanced at Kaguya. Not only had this woman accidentally stumbled upon a life-bearing planet, but the local inhabitants also happened to resemble the Akatsuki. Just how astronomically low were those odds? It defies all logic. Shaking his head, he casually picked a fertile planet and tossed Kaguya onto it. "Alright, plant yourself here and take root. I've got other matters to attend to, so I'll be off." Before Kaguya could react, Obito teleported to another planet. This place will do. Time to test my theory. His eyes glowed with chakra as he retrieved both Madara and a divine tree. "Grandpa Madara, I have an idea I want to try." After explaining his plan, Madara nodded slightly and said, "I think it's feasible. Go ahead and try it, Obito. I'll watch over you to make sure nothing goes wrong." Obito flashed a thumbs up before approaching the young divine tree. The Ten Tails is essentially a young divine tree. ABA. As Obito neared, the Ten Tails wagged its tails excitedly. Obito smirked. "Don't get the wrong idea, I'm not here to feed you. In fact, I'm here to eat you." "Owo?" The Ten Tails let out a confused sound, 3 question marks practically floating above its head. Chuckling, Obito formed a hand seal and activated Ten Tails' coffin seal. Kaz! A powerful suction force erupted from within him, instantly pulling the Ten Tails into his body. With his current level of mental and physical strength, becoming a Ten Tails Jinchuriki was as easy as drinking water. Next step, achieving mutual understanding. Closing his eyes, he connected his consciousness to the Ten Tails. "Hey, Ten Tails, I acknowledge you. Do you acknowledge me?" Inside the sealed space, the Ten Tails lay on the ground, completely ignoring him. For millennia, the divine tree had always fed on the Akatsuki. When had a divine tree ever been eaten by an Akatsuki? This was an unforgivable disgrace. And now he wanted acknowledgement? Like hell. TCH. Seeing the Ten Tails remain unresponsive, Obito scowled. Without hesitation, he started compressing chakra spheres. Owo? Holy! As the chakra sphere grew larger than itself, the Ten Tails suddenly had a change of heart. Owo. Fine. I acknowledge you. Obito grinned. See? A little sincerity goes a long way. The Ten Tails. What's with that look? Am I wrong? Kicking the beast, Obito barked, "Stop dawdling. Get to work." Chapter 306, The 62nd Year of Konoha. The 62nd Year of Konoha, July 29th. Under Grandpa Madara's guidance, my yin-yang release has advanced by leaps and bounds. After practicing on Orochimaru and numerous experimental subjects, I can now use yin-yang release to reshape cells, tissues, organs, even entire bodies. Holy crap, Grandma, I've made it big. I think I might have gained the ability to rewrite human lifespans. September 19th. Today is Grandma's 70th birthday. I originally planned to extend her lifespan by 20 years using yin-yang release. But I accidentally overdid it and turned her back into her 20s. Grandma immediately grabbed the broom next to her and chased me down several streets. Woohoo! Death is like the wind, always by my side. It's been so long since I had this much fun. Oola! September 20th. Damn those unethical newspapers, what kind of nonsense are they publishing? Shocking! The true face of the 5th Hokage. Chased through the streets by a young woman, all because of this. The 5th scandalous love affair? Don't miss out. The hero of the shinobi world turns heartless, a moral collapse, a twist of humanity. Damn it, you guys just wait. I'm about to fire up my Susanoo and have a little chat with each and every one of you. Obito closed his journal. He glanced at the ink-black night sky outside and curled his lips into a sinister grin. Hee. A moonless night, perfect for murder and arson. Obito stood up, draped a black cloak over himself, and walked to his cabinet. He pulled out a long-forgotten white mask. Awaken, hunting hour. With a chilling laugh, he donned the mask and leaped out of the window. His black silhouette merged with the darkness, vanishing in an instant. Brother Toby always settles his grudges before the night is over. Under the full moon. Obito crouched atop a telephone pole, watching as smoke billowed from the newspaper office in the distance. A wicked grin tugged at his lips. Humph. That's what you get for slandering me. Brother Toby has been too lenient with you all. The night wind brushed against him. Obito plopped down on the pole, swinging his legs as he sank into thought. Him. If I go home at this hour, I'll definitely wake up little Hagoromo and the others. But if I don't go home, what else is there to do? Just then, a certain woman's graceful figure surfaced in his mind. Riding the lingering thrill of his earlier antics, Obito made an impulsive decision. Maybe I should go see her? A hint of hesitation flickered across his face. After a brief moment of deliberation, he activated Kamui. Amigakure. Thin silver strands of rain drifted down like silk, pooling into ripples upon the ground. Obito stood like a phantom outside an ancient palace, separated from the person within by just a single wall. Well, I'm already here. Might as well take a look. Sighing, Obito stepped into the palace. The night was cool as water, rain slicing through the air outside, while inside, silver candlelight flickered gently. A woman with delicate, picturesque features reclined on a sandalwood chair at the center of the hall. She was draped in a light red fur robe, carefully examining the documents in her hands under the warm glow of the candles. Obito cleared his throat, suppressing his complicated emotions as he chuckled. Ahem. I've long heard that the ruler of Amigakure is diligent and works tirelessly. Now that I've seen it firsthand, I must say, the rumors were true. Upon hearing his voice, the woman didn't rush or panic. She calmly straightened herself, placed her documents aside, and gazed down at Obito with a commanding air. You stand before me, yet you do not kneel? Her voice was cold and imperious, laced with a faint hint of resentment. Obito scratched his head, looking slightly awkward. With our relationship, do I really need to kneel? She looked at the man before her, emotion stirring within her. The last time we parted, you were still just a boy, and now? You've grown so much. Conan murmured softly. Obito instinctively glanced down at himself, then quickly realized his mistake. To ease the awkwardness, he blurted out, You've aged, Conan. Conan let out a wistful sigh and smiled self-deprecatingly. Yes, I have grown old. Years of tirelessly managing Amigakure had left traces on her face, fine lines, silver strands at her temples. So, after all these years, why have you come back? Conan asked softly. She would have preferred never to see him again, so that when he remembered her, it would only be of her most beautiful self. Obito stepped closer, fiddling with his fingers as he spoke. Well, I actually snuck a few visits before. Conan's eyes widened in shock. So that's why I always felt like someone was watching me when I bathed? Obito's eyes widened in equal shock. Wait, Conan. Is that really how you see me? Conan nodded without hesitation. Omhom. Obito. The two of them drew closer. Conan's chest rose and fell as she muttered, I don't know what my guards are even doing, letting you come and go as you please. Obito laughed heartily, his voice brimming with confidence. Oh, come on, Conan, don't be too hard on them. I mean, let's be honest, how many people in this world can actually stop me now? Conan rolled her eyes and quipped, Oh? Seems like someone's gotten pretty full of himself now that he's a big shot. Obito mimicked her and rolled his eyes back. Oh. Seems like someone's gotten pretty high and mighty now that she's the ruler of a nation, demanding kneeling and all. You brat, do you want a beating? Conan shot up from her chair and smacked at him. Pa! Obito caught her wrist midair and, without thinking, held her hand. Conan froze. Brat, what are you? Ignoring her question, Obito concentrated, using his experience from earlier that day. Just like that, Conan's body reverted to her 20-year-old self. Looking at her reflection in shock, Conan gasped, "How is this possible?" That night, Obito squatted outside his house until dawn. When morning came, he slipped inside and busied himself in the kitchen, preparing breakfast for his family. A soft smile graced his lips as he whispered to himself. I may know a few beautiful women, but in my heart, there's only ever been Rin. Just then, a small head peeked over his shoulder, big eyes gleaming. Honey, when did you meet these beautiful women? And why have you never mentioned them before? And from the way you said it, it sounds like there's more than one? Obito's body went rigid. I'm doomed. Chapter 307, Plot Expansion and Development. Year 62 of the Kanadakur calendar, October 21st. I've been kicked out of the house by Rinchan for a month now. Sigh. With nowhere to stay, I initially planned to crash at Shikayu or Kakashi's place for a while. Who knew those two bastards wouldn't take me in? Damn it! Left with no choice, I've been temporarily staying at Jiraiya-sama's house. Seeing how down I was, Jiraiya-sama shared a ton of research materials with me. After going through them, I felt a lot less depressed. Year 62 of the Kanadakur calendar, November 7th. Tsunade-sama finally agreed to Jiraiya-sama's date request. Well, calling it a date is a bit of an exaggeration, it's just a simple dinner and a movie. Still, Jiraiya-sama was overjoyed and spent the entire morning getting ready. To be honest, in my personal opinion, I don't think Tsunade deserves Jiraiya-sama. But as long as he's happy, as his student, I can only give him my blessings. Year 62 of the Kanadakur calendar, November 29th. Rinchan finally forgave me. I moved back home. Ha ha ha. Though, as punishment for my mistakes, I had to stay on the bottom for a whole month. Year 62 of the Kanadakur calendar, December 17th. Under Obito's guidance, the village has been expanding its operations, growing more prosperous by the day. The transition has been incredibly smooth. Financial revenues have been steadily increasing, and we're even starting to break free from the feudal lord's control. Of course, the feudal lord couldn't sit still and began imposing sanctions on Konoha across various sectors. Feeling both helpless and secretly pleased, Obito had no choice but to activate his Susanoo and take a little stroll outside the feudal lord's palace for a few days. Not long after, the feudal lord reconsidered his stance, abandoning all sanctions against Konoha. He even declared his willingness to pursue peaceful cooperation and mutual benefit. Year 63 of the Kanadakur calendar, January 1st. Today, I visited Minato-sensei with Kakashi and Rin. During our conversation, Kushina subtly revealed her growing anxiety. She's worried that her son won't find a girlfriend. Naruto is already 20, and he's still single. She didn't notice that the moment she brought this up, Naruto's face turned bright red, while I couldn't help but smirk. After all, during my aimless strolls around the village, I've definitely spotted Naruto taking evening walks with his Byakugan princess more than once. TSK, this kid has been smooth since he was young. I really don't get why Kushina is so worried. Speaking of which, seeing Karen today reminded me of something interesting. She, Sasuke, and Sakura are now Naruto's apprentice squad members. And from what I hear, she and Sakura often get into fierce brawls over Sasuke. Two powerhouse kunoichi going at it? Just imagining it is entertaining. TSK, I wonder which one of them our dear Sasuke will end up with. Year 64 of the Kanadakur calendar, March 12th. I was too busy training last year and didn't have time to write in my journal. Of course, my new gaming console might have had something to do with it. Anyway, the 10-year promise I made with that naive fool is drawing closer. My blood is starting to boil with anticipation again. After living peacefully for so long, I've begun to yearn for battle once more. Akatsuki clan. Are you ready for your judgment? Year 65 of the Kanagakur calendar, November 3rd. Even with incomplete Ten Tails power, Madara somehow managed to grasp the ability of Kekiaimora. Not only that, but he even fused it with natural energy, developing an entirely new and terrifying power. I lack the words to express my shock, so all I can say is, holy shit. Madara, why are you so damn OP? Year 66 of the Kanagakur calendar, December 7th. An awkward situation has arisen. Madara has already explained to me the theoretical principles behind bloodline convergence. Yet, after an entire year, I still haven't been able to fully master it. That said, I have successfully established a connection with my Akatsuki avatar. Soon, I'll send my avatar to Takamagara while my real body stays on Earth to continue training. No big deal. Year 67 of the Kanagakur calendar, April 22nd. The 10-year promise has arrived. My Akatsuki avatar has already left with Kaguya for Takamagara. Meanwhile, I remain on Earth, training diligently and staying with Rinchan and the others. This dual existence is quite an interesting experience. I can accompany my family while simultaneously enjoying the thrill of exploring the universe. Not to mention, I've got a certain naive fool by my side, ahem. Supplementing the missing time gaps with entries from Obito's journal. Back to the present. Under Obito's relentless pressure and exploitation, his team's efficiency in harvesting planetary energy far exceeded that of other squads. This naturally meant more benefits for them to hoard. During missions, Obito deliberately made enemies out of several formidable Akatsuki members. He hoped they would challenge him at the next Divine Selection tournament. Sure enough, his plan worked. Among the Akatsuki, only those who had devoured their own kind could rise to the top. Beyond the chakra fruits, consuming their fellow clan members was the ultimate way to grow stronger. Become a predator, or be devoured. That was the law. At the latest Divine Selection tournament, someone issued a life-or-death duel challenge to Obito. An Akatsuki laughed wildly and asked, "Ishiki, do you dare fight me?" Obito floated out from the crowd. Frowning slightly, he tilted his head with a look of confusion and muttered, "I've always hated unnecessary bloodshed, yet you people insist on dragging me into these fights." His expression sharpened. "Since you're so eager to die, you'd better be prepared to become my meal." The surrounding Akatsuki cheered enthusiastically. "Oh!" Suijin watched with amusement, his lips curling as he spoke. "Ishiki, if possible, try not to shift the battle to another dimension this time. Last time, we missed the chance to witness your duel with Tenshiki. Everyone was quite disappointed." He turned to the gathered clansmen with a smile. "Am I right?" Urashiki was the first to chime in. "Suijin is right. I've been regretting missing that fight for 2,000 years. TCH, this bootlicker never changes." Momoshiki rolled his eyes and snapped his fan shut. Suijin truly has keen insight. He speaks for all of us. Kaguya shot Obito a worried glance, feeling uneasy about the battle ahead. Chapter 308, Crushed by Fate. Obito stood in the void, facing Akatsuki Suijin from afar. What a shame there aren't any Akatsuki named quadratic equation or polynomial formula. You could have formed a whole team. Suijin sneered, his cold eyes flashing dangerously. "Ishiki, I'll make you pay for your arrogance." Obito snorted but said no more. His figure blurred as he charged straight at Suijin. Dekokuden. A barrage of black rods rained down upon Suijin like a storm. Yet, Suijin remained unfazed. He didn't even attempt to dodge. Instead, he activated his dojutsu, Ishigon. Ishigon, said to determine fortune or misfortune with a single word. The divine eye of fate and prophecy. "Fortune," he intoned. With that single utterance, he shifted his body ever so slightly, just enough to evade every single black rod without suffering even a scratch. "What an annoying dojutsu," Obito muttered. Suijin conjured a crimson chakra blade using his ability, Hagakure. He brandished the blade, slicing through the void as he lunged toward Obito. Obito countered with a black katana forged from Inyang release, meeting Sujin's strike head-on. Clang! 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 Their blades clashed, each strike aimed at the other's vitals, a deadly yet graceful exchange. Sparks flew as their figures weaved through the battlefield, shadows and steel intertwined. Obito's Rinnegan shimmered as he once again activated Dekokuden. A massive black cube materialized, descending upon Suijin at an unrelenting speed. Suijin, however, remained calm. He locked blades with Obito and spoke in an indifferent tone. "Misfortune." At that moment, Obito's chakra faltered for a brief instant, his movement stalling just enough to cost him control. The colossal black cube, now unrestrained, tumbled helplessly into the void beyond. Seizing the opportunity, Sujin's blade flashed, carving a deep gash across Obito's chest. "Heh, Ishiki, is that all you've got?" Suijin taunted. Obito's expression darkened. Sujin's dojutsu, Ishigan, allowed him to manipulate his own or his opponent's fate with a single word. An ability like this was virtually impossible to guard against. But this works in my favor, Obito thought to himself. It makes it easier for me to die at his hands. Inside the Takamagara, a star-class battleship. Almost every Akatsuki aboard stood gathered on the observation deck, eyes glued to the battle outside, unwilling to miss even a second of the spectacle. When will I be able to stand among the great ones and participate in the divine selection? One strike alone can tear through the void. This is true power. Heh, quit dreaming. Takamagara provides food and shelter. Why not just enjoy an easy life? Amid the crowd, two particular Akatsuki seemed out of place. They watched for a while before losing interest, shaking their heads as they turned away, heading toward the control room. Seeing this, a curious bystander called out, "You're leaving? If you miss this divine selection, you might never witness another one in your lifetime." One of the departing figures sighed. "This kind of event is too far beyond our reach. The more I watch, the more hopeless I feel." The other chuckled bitterly. "Better not to watch at all. That way, we won't waste time on unattainable dreams." The questioning Akatsuki shook his head. An Akatsuki who doesn't aspire to divinity isn't a true Akatsuki. You two are far too pessimistic. He then turned away, refocusing on the battle. But as the two passed beyond his sight, their faces twisted into eerie smiles. One of them licked his lips before speaking in a sinister tone. "I've waited 1,000 years for this. Let's hope it all pays off." He turned to his companion and smirked. "Are you ready, Kabuto?" His companion adjusted imaginary glasses and curled his lips into a smirk. "Of course, Orochimaru-sama. I've been waiting for the signal." That's right, these two Akatsuki were none other than Orochimaru and Kabuto. Long ago, Obito had delivered the body to Orochimaru for research. After nearly a century of study, Orochimaru had deciphered the secrets of the Akatsuki's genetic makeup. Building upon this knowledge, he modified the living corpse reincarnation technique. He transformed it into a forbidden jutsu capable of seizing Akatsuki bodies. With Obito's covert assistance, he and Kabuto had successfully taken over the bodies of two insignificant Akatsuki. Then, using their intelligence and cunning, they had spent thousands of years working their way up within the Takamagara. Now, they were key figures in the battleship's control center. And all of this had been in preparation for today, the divine selection. The moment they had been waiting for. It's finally time. The two exchanged glances, seeing the excitement reflected in each other's eyes. Back in the void, Obito was being pushed further and further back. Each time their blades clashed, Sujin's crimson sword repelled Obito's black katana, carving fresh wounds into his body. "Misfortune! Once again, Obito found himself inexplicably faltering, making an uncharacteristic mistake. Suijin capitalized on the moment, knocking aside Obito's katana before severing one of his arms with a single swing. Gah! Obito let out a pained cry. Among the onlookers, Urashiki covered his eyes dramatically. Oh no, Ishiki's getting wrecked. I can't bear to watch. Momoshiki twirled his fan, unfazed. Looks like Tsujin's dojutsu is superior. The nature of Ishigan, an ability capable of altering fate itself, was fundamentally overpowering against tangible dojutsu like Daikokuden. Tsukine stroked his chin, a nearly imperceptible smile flickering across his face. It was clear to all, Suijin had seized absolute dominance. Ishiki's defeat was inevitable. Seems I was overly cautious. Ishiki poses no real threat to me after all. Heh. Kagaya watched as Obito, his body torn and bleeding, struggled against the overwhelming force. Her large, expressive eyes shimmered with an unsettling mist. Human, are you really going to die this time? Misfortune. Suijin laughed wildly. Another exchange. Another arm lost. Now, become part of me, Ishiki. Suijin clapped his hands together, causing the crimson rings behind him to expand dramatically. Hagakure fusion. A storm of chakra weapons erupted from the rings. Shing! 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 Swords, spears, halberds, axes, scythes, hooks, whips. A blinding flurry of red light. Before most could even react, the weapons had already passed through Obito's body. In the next instant, splat! Obito's body shattered into countless pieces, scattering across the void. Chapter 309, I'll just steal home. Amidst the downpour of blood, Suijin wore a triumphant smile. He raised his hand, gathering the remnants of Ishiki's exploded body and chakra into a single mass. Then, he compressed and condensed it further, refining it into a pill small enough to swallow. With a flick of his fingers, the pill flew into his palm, and he swallowed it in one gulp. He closed his eyes, savoring the sensation as the surge of chakra erupted within him. The battle had come to an end. Tsukine led the applause, a faint smile on his lips as he declared, Ishiki is dead. I hereby announce that the final victor is Suijin. Now, let us celebrate our champion and prepare for the next round of battles. The Akatsuki in the crowd erupted into cheers. Whoa! Whoa! Only Kagaya furrowed her brows in concern. Humans. Is he really dead just like that? Aboard the starship Takamagara. Inside Ishiki's personal chambers, Uchiha Obito sat cross-legged, a smile on his face. Silently, he endured the transformation of the Kama seal as it reshaped him. Horns spiraled from his head, his skin grew paler. Before long, he no longer bore the appearance of a human but that of an Akatsuki. Flexing his limbs, he chuckled to himself. Heh, thanks to my synchronization with the clone a century ago, my dojutsu is still intact. My chakra reserves are a bit lower than expected, but that won't affect the overall plan. Well then, it's time to begin. He retrieved his PDA and sent a message to Orochimaru. *PDA, Personal Digital Assistant. Starship Control Room. Orochimaru pulled out his PDA from his robes. His golden eyes gleamed with intrigue as he read the message. Beside him, Kabuto grinned excitedly. Is it time? Orochimaru gave a slow, eerie nod, his smile sinister. Let's begin, Kabuto. The two of them leisurely made their way to the ship's main control panel. Then, their fingers danced across the keyboard, inputting a rapid sequence of commands. The other Akatsuki in the control room frowned and questioned them. Hey, what are you two doing? But Orochimaru and Kabuto ignored them, their hands moving even faster. One line after another, red code flooded the massive control screen. They had rewritten the ship's foundational commands, granting themselves supreme authority over Takamagara. Damn it! Kill them now! The Akatsuki rushed forward, unleashing a barrage of deadly attacks. But Orochimaru and Kabuto had already stepped away from the console, swiftly evading the incoming strikes. One of the Akatsuki glanced at the screen and turned pale with horror. "You maniacs! You actually activated the dead hand system?" The attackers immediately abandoned their offense. Two of them remained, glaring daggers at Orochimaru and Kabuto, while the rest scrambled toward the controls, desperately trying to undo the damage. Orochimaru watched the scene with a smirk and spoke in an icy tone. "It's pointless. Don't waste your efforts. You won't even have time to crack my code before he comes for you." Kabuto's smile widened as he added, "If I were you, I'd enjoy my last few minutes of life." Outside the starship, in the void of space, Tsukine observed his kin slaughtering each other with amusement. But at that moment, his PDAs suddenly blared with an ear-piercing alarm. Beep! 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 It wasn't just his device, every single Akatsuki present had their PDAs go off at the same time. Panic-stricken voices soon followed. "What's happening? Why is Takamagara activating the dead hand system? What? That means we're..." The mere mention of the dead hand system sent a ripple of fear through the battlefield. Even those locked in combat ceased fighting, their expressions turning to shock. Momoshiki, usually calm and composed, turned to Tsukine with urgency. "Tsukine-sama, what the hell is going on?" Tsukine scowled at his PDA and growled, "Someone bypassed my authority and forcefully activated the dead hand system." The dead hand system was a countermeasure the Akatsuki had meticulously designed. It was only meant to be triggered in the event of an existential threat to their entire race. Once activated, the ship would automatically enter a complete lockdown, generating an impenetrable spatial barrier. Not even Tsukine himself could breach it within a minute. This barrier had been specifically designed to prevent a powerhouse like him from storming the ship and going on a rampage. In other words, its strength had been tailored with Tsukine's full power in mind. Realizing this, Tsukine felt like he had just shot himself in the foot. His face darkened as he issued orders. "The top 20 ranked clan members will stay. The rest of you, retreat to a safe distance." In truth, no command was necessary. Many Akatsuki had already turned into streaks of light, fleeing deep into space. The moment the dead hand system was triggered, Takamagara would activate all its weapon systems. After a 1-minute countdown, it would unleash an indiscriminate, devastating bombardment upon everything within range. That 1-minute delay existed solely to allow any Akatsuki outside the ship to escape, one final sliver of mercy. Inside the starship, Obito arrived at the docking bay, where a horde of Akatsuki had gathered. Like the embodiment of death itself, he began his slaughter. Deikokuden. Kamui. Dark rods shot out like a thicket of thorns, distorting the space around them. The Akatsuki warriors stood no chance. They fell like wheat before a scythe. "Ah! Help! Ishiki, how dare you! Tsukine-sama won't forgive this. Damn you! May you suffer for all eternity. Ishiki-sama, please! Spare me! Why? Why are you doing this to us? We're just ordinary people." Cries of agony, curses, and desperate pleas filled the air. But Obito heard none of it. He slaughtered his way through the bay, from one end to the other, without so much as blinking. Were there Akatsuki who sought peace? Yes, but they had long been devoured by their own kin. Those unwilling to consume others had no power to resist. Their fates were always the same, to be sacrificed in the clan's ceremonial selection, reduced to nothing more than food for the stronger. It was precisely because Obito understood this that he had no hesitation in his massacre. The ones who had survived until now all bore sins of their own. As blood soaked his white robes, he whispered with cold mercy, "Your wicked lives end today. Become a part of me." Chapter 310, Massacre of the Akatsuki. Inside Takamagara, Obito moved unimpeded, ruthlessly reaping the lives of the Akatsuki in his path. Any powerful Akatsuki capable of stopping or even slowing him down had already been locked outside the starship, sealed off by the dead hand system. As for the weaklings left aboard, Obito was slaughtering them without restraint. With every Akatsuki that fell, his power grew stronger. Outside Takamagara, the 1-minute buffer period was about to end. An array of terrifying weapons emerged from the starship: electromagnetic kinetic cannons, high-energy particle beams, gamma-ray lasers, interstellar torpedoes. It was no exaggeration to say that this 4-pronged weapon system could easily obliterate a planet. Yet the 21 Akatsuki remaining outside showed no fear. They had transcended mortal limits, their strength defying reason itself. Tsukin's face was grim as he gazed at Takamagara, now beyond his control. "Hold off the ship's attacks," he ordered coldly. "I will break through the dead hand system's spatial barrier." "Understood." The surrounding Akatsuki responded in unison. A cataclysmic barrage descended upon them. The Akatsuki displayed their various abilities, exhausting every ounce of power to carve out a safe zone for their king. Inside Takamagara, standing atop a mountain of corpses, Obito halted his slaughter. Save for a few lucky survivors hiding in remote corners, every Akatsuki aboard had already fallen at his feet. Through the massive screen before him, he could see Tsukin attempting to dismantle the ship's spatial field. "I need to hurry. That guy is about to break through." Muttering to himself, he began refining a pill using thousands of Akatsuki corpses as the source. A few minutes later, crack! A crisp sound echoed through the ship, as if something had shattered. In the next instant, Tsukin and 10 other elite Akatsuki tore through space and stormed aboard. The remaining 11 had perished under the dead hand's devastating assault. Surveying the hellscape within the starship, Tsukin's eyes burned with fury, his terrifying aura seething uncontrollably. "Ishiki, how dare you!" His once mighty clan, built through his own hands, had been wiped out in mere moments. Tsukin's rage knew no bounds. Obito calmly popped a nearly solidified chakra pill into his mouth and cast a tranquil gaze upon the gathered Akatsuki. "Dare? I've already done it. So what?" The pill dissolved instantly, unleashing a flood of chakra that rampaged through his body. Boom! 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 Before the astonished eyes of the Akatsuki, Obito's power surged to terrifying heights, surpassing most of them within seconds. Only when he reached near parity with Tsukin did the sudden escalation finally halt. "Good, very good, Ishiki." Tsukin snarled through clenched teeth. "Do you think simply amassing chakra makes you my equal?" Obito shook his head and pointed at his left eye. "Of course not. Take a closer look." At first glance, his left eye appeared unchanged, still adorned with 6 tomo. But a closer look revealed something startling. Each tomo had become darker, denser. And within each of the 6 tomo lay an additional 36 microtomo. A total of 216 tomo. Each representing a different ocular technique. Akatsuki Werewolf. Every time you kill an Akatsuki, you randomly acquire one of their abilities. Although the weaker Akatsuki aboard had a low drop rate, even a mere 1% chance had granted Obito an impressive arsenal. Kagetsuchi, Yatsukami, Jitsum, Kenko. Yamato Takaru, Transcendent Fertility. That last one seemed a little weird. In any case, with a sufficient chakra supply and over 200 ocular techniques at his disposal, Obito saw no way he could lose. As the Akatsuki momentarily hesitated, Obito seized the opportunity. Without a shred of honor, he unleashed 30 different dojutsu at once, instantly erasing 2 weakened Akatsuki from existence. Arg! Their agonized screams echoed as their souls were shredded by the Terano Masakado technique. Terano Masakado, a legendary vengeful spirit from a distant land, still feared for its power to haunt the living. Tsukin's heart clenched in alarm. In that split second, he had sensed Obito unleashing dozens of abilities simultaneously. Attacks spanning soul, body, space-time, even causality itself. Such a complex onslaught was impossible to counter in an instant. Gritting his teeth, Tsukine fixed Obito with a dark stare. Ishiki, stop this senseless slaughter. What do you want? We can negotiate. Obito stroked his chin thoughtfully. I want to know your secret, Tsukine. Why hoard chakra fruits instead of consuming them yourself? What are you really planning? Tsukine's gaze flickered with uncertainty, his mind racing. Just then, Obito's form flickered erratically, as though skipping frames in reality. A moment later, he stabilized, raising an eyebrow. Humph. It seems you just tried to erase me from existence on a causal level. Had it not been for his newly acquired Ein no Tokatachi technique, capable of resisting such esoteric attacks. Ein no Tokatachi, a divine being overseeing sacred rites in an ancient court. He would have been erased like a phantom, vanishing into oblivion. Tsukine's face darkened. You even countered that. You old bastard, Obito sneered. No honor at all. Let's see how you handle this. He lunged forward. Boom! Boom! In the blink of an eye, 2 more Akatsuki fell. Though each of them ranked among the strongest of their kind, none had more than 4 or 5 dojutsu. Weakened and battered, they stood no chance against Obito's overwhelming abilities. Grinning, Obito channeled his inner Kakashi and taunted, "It's useless. With over 100 ocular techniques at my disposal, you have no chance of winning." With 4 more kills, he gained 4 new powerful dojutsu. 220 in total. Once again, his form blurred as he bypassed Tsukine, targeting the remaining Akatsuki. Damn you! Fight me head-on if you dare. Watching his elite warriors fall like harvested wheat, powerless to intervene, Tsukine was on the verge of madness. Coward! Face me! Obito dropped the last Akatsuki corpse and turned to him with a twisted grin. All right. Just the 2 of us now, just as you wished. Chapter 311, Heavenly Evolution. Obito curled his lips and spoke in a casual tone. I'll be waiting for you outside, Tsukine. With that, his figure flickered and instantly vanished from Takamagara. Obito already considered this starship his personal property. Naturally, he had no intention of letting the upcoming battle damage his precious vessel. Tsukine let out a furious roar and also appeared in the void. Without wasting any words, the 2 clashed instantly. Terrifying techniques of all kinds rained down on each other, as if chakra was an afterthought. At this moment, Takamagara's weapon systems were already overloaded. In the distance, several Akatsuki had begun returning. What the hell just happened? That is. The first to return, Urashiki, widened his eyes in shock. Ishiki is fighting Tsukine-sama? And they're evenly matched? Momoshiki appeared beside Urashiki, solemnly twirling his fan. Could it be that the anomaly in the starship earlier was caused by that bastard Ishiki? Obito, the hell are you talking about? I'm not some cheap ghost story character. Behind them, Akatsuki Koshiki had also arrived. Ranked 21st in the clan, he had narrowly escaped death. His expression was filled with disbelief. How is this possible? Ishiki just completed his reincarnation, how can he be this strong? No one had an answer for him. One of the Akatsuki spoke gravely. Should we go assist Tsukine-sama? Koshiki sneered. Assist? With our current strength, we'd just be throwing our lives away. The battle between Tsukine and Obito had already surpassed their comprehension. The space around them was riddled with gaping wounds, unable to heal before being torn apart again, hundreds, thousands of times in the blink of an eye. The very fabric of cause and effect around them twisted chaotically, origins forming and dissolving in an endless cycle. Anyone who dared interfere would be erased at the fundamental level of existence. No, perhaps some had already tried. They were simply wiped from reality, leaving no memory of their existence. Momoshiki suddenly closed his fan, his sharp gaze landing on Kagaya. Woman, Ishiki was your partner. There's no way you know nothing about the secrets he carries. Kagaya blinked her large, watery eyes, looking aggrieved. But I really don't know anything. Ishiki never told me a thing. Momoshiki turned to another Akatsuki, one possessing a dojutsu that could discern truth from lies. That Akatsuki frowned slightly and nodded. My dojutsu confirms that Kaguya is telling the truth. Kaguya pitifully nodded along while laughing to herself internally. Of course, I'm telling the truth. Ishiki really never told me anything. Because he died thousands of years ago, thought. With their only lead cut off, the gathered Akatsuki could only continue observing the battle. Some showed concern, some seethed with hatred, while others watched with cryptic expressions. Under their very gazes, something even more shocking occurred. Tsukine-sama is losing? At the center of the battlefield. Obito sent Tsukine flying with a strike, then smirked. Not bad. You actually possess 6 different types of dojutsu. When used together, even someone with a larger chakra reserve than you wouldn't necessarily have the upper hand. But unfortunately, you ran into me, the guy with 220 different dojutsu. Tsukine's expression darkened. In their exchange just now, he had been completely overpowered. With an inexhaustible chakra supply, the one with more dojutsu had the overwhelming advantage. It was only thanks to his vast combat experience and mastery of his 6 dojutsu that he had lasted this long. Any lesser Akatsuki would have been obliterated already. How did you acquire so many dojutsu? Could it be, you also obtained the heavenly evolution? Impossible. Tsukine first voiced his suspicion but immediately dismissed it. Obito rubbed his chin and chuckled with interest. So, the so-called heavenly evolution really does contain a great secret. Tell me, is your stockpile of chakra fruits also related to it? Tsukine fell silent, analyzing the situation. At this rate, he would inevitably lose. Victory was out of reach. In that case, I'll have to gamble everything, he thought, gritting his teeth. Since you're so desperate to know, then I shall grant your wish. A ruthless glint flashed in Tsukine's eyes as he detonated a seal that had been passed down for millennia. Ching! A brilliant sword light, incomprehensible even to Tsukine and Obito, erupted forth, reflecting in everyone's eyes. It was as if a blade had been drawn from another world, carving open a fissure between dimensions. A figure clad in white robes stepped through the rift. His eyes shimmered with the passage of suns, moons, and stars, and the very laws of existence wove around him in an endless dance. At a mere glance, the gathered Akatsuki felt their minds reel and their thoughts momentarily freeze. So strong! Obito gulped. Tsukine actually managed to summon such a powerhouse. This is bad, really bad. His instincts screamed that if this being wielded, he could end Obito's life with a mere thought. Tsukine bowed deeply, his voice solemn and reverent. Welcome, Supreme Immortal of Heavenly Evolution. The figure furrowed his brows, forming a hand seal as he looked at Tsukine with confusion. Only 30,000 years have passed in this world. Have you completed the mission our sect entrusted to you? A white glow flashed in Tsukine's eyes. In the next moment, over 1,000 resplendent chakra fruits materialized, gleaming in the void. So many chakra fruits. Many Akatsuki looked on with greed. Were it not for the presence of the immortal and Tsukine's power, they might have already pounced to seize them. Yet, instead of delight, the immortal let out a cold snort. Humph. Where's the other half? Instantly, an indescribable pressure descended upon the battlefield, suffocating all present. Did I not say that until you fulfill your quota, you are not to summon me? The immortal's voice turned cold. Did you take my words as mere wind in your ears? Tsukine hastily pointed at Obito, his voice filled with fear. Supreme Immortal, it's him. He obstructed my collection of the fruits and threatened your great plan. I had no choice but to summon you, please, forgive me. Tsukine's groveling astonished many Akatsuki. But soon, some sneered in amusement. If even Tsukine submitted to this figure, then dealing with Ishiki would be a mere flick of the wrist. The immortal turned his gaze to Obito. Oh, shit. I'm screwed! Obito felt cold sweat soak his clothes. He had never been this close to death before. Chapter 312, Two High-Ranked Worlds. The moment he was locked onto by that terrifying presence, Obito's very soul began to tremble. He couldn't muster even a shred of resistance. Damn it, the gap is too vast. Obito roared internally. Our strengths aren't even in the same dimension. Seeing this, Tsukine and most of the present Akatsuki displayed knowing sneers. The immortal himself has taken action. Ishiki, let's see how you turn this around now. But just as Tsukine entertained that thought, the mysterious figure suddenly let out a soft "oh" and revealed an intrigued expression. This little one's soul doesn't seem to belong to this world. And he carries the power of another high-ranked, S-class, world within him. Interesting, truly interesting. Let me take a closer look. The figure murmured. In the next moment, his eyes shone brilliantly, as if containing a blazing star. Mysterious laws quietly surged, and the river of time began to flow in reverse. Obito's past and future unfolded before the figure's gaze like an endless tapestry. Oh! This boy's soul actually originates from a primordial world under my Etherean domain? The figure was slightly surprised to discover that this young man before him was somewhat connected to him. The high-ranked world known as Etherean governed countless mid-ranked, low-ranked, and primordial worlds. And Obito's soul came from one such primordial world under Etherean's jurisdiction. At that moment, the figure found Obito much more pleasing to the eye. At the very least, in this world, Obito was the only one he didn't find repulsive. Heh, so it's those Order World bastards. Detecting anomalies in this world, and then using this boy as a medium to plunder the world's essence? That does seem like their usual methods. After reading through Obito's past, the figure then turned his gaze toward Obito's future. This boy's future is quite intriguing. If that's the case. Abruptly, the figure withdrew his gaze from Obito. Obito instantly felt his body lighten, as if he had just escaped from the depths of hell. Huff, huff. He gasped heavily, deeply puzzled. What's going on? Why didn't he kill me? He wasn't the only one confused, Tsukine was equally baffled. Why is the immortal just staring instead of acting? For some reason, an ominous feeling crept into Tsukine's heart. In the next instant, the figure's gaze fell upon him, carrying an unmistakable displeasure. How dare you, ignorant savage? Do you take me for your personal executioner? Are you trying to instruct me on what to do? Tsukine's face turned ashen as he stammered in panic. Immortal, you've misunderstood. I wouldn't dare. But before he could finish, the figure cut him off coldly. I once bestowed enlightenment upon your kind, reshaped your bodies, and granted you divine elixirs. Yet you can't even handle such a trivial task? Do you expect me to clean up your mess? What use do I have for you? Do you have any idea how much it cost me to descend into this world just because of your incompetence? The figure's voice, infused with divine might, thundered like rolling heavens, relentlessly breaking down Tsukine's mental defenses. Immortal, I. Glancing at the trembling Tsukine, the figure then turned toward the bewildered Obito and thought to himself. Little one, this is all the help I can offer you. Whether you can seize this opportunity to reach the future I glimpsed, that will depend on your own fortune. He flicked his fingers, sending two glowing sigils into the air. One landed on Tsukine, while the other embedded itself in Obito. With his hands behind his back, the figure spoke indifferently. I care not for the process, only the results. Whoever completes our sex mission will be deemed worthy in my eyes. Tsukine seemed to grasp the implications, his arms trembling as he cried out. Immortal, I have served you loyally for so many years. How can you do this to me? The figure cast him a cold, disdainful glance, his eyes filled with contempt. The fact that I have spared your life is already the greatest mercy I can grant you. You should reflect on that. With that, the figure turned his gaze to Obito one last time, his expression unreadable. Whichever of you gathers the remaining 1,000 divine elixirs shall be admitted as an outer disciple of my sect. That is all. I expect this kind of situation to never happen again. Otherwise, there will be no mercy. Obito's eyes flashed with a strange glint. Is it just my imagination, or did this otherworldly powerhouse deliberately favor me? Well, either way, it's a good thing. Tsukine, you'll soon learn what it means to lift a rock only to crush your own foot. Obito bowed respectfully. Rest assured. I will complete this mission. The figure let out an almost imperceptible chuckle but said nothing more. Go! He stepped onto his sword, crossing the void and vanishing back into his own world. As he departed, the spatial rift gradually sealed. Tsukine stood there, utterly devastated. He had spent his entire life striving to ascend to an S-class world and join the sect. But now, that dream was shattered. Seeing the despair on Tsukine's face, Obito smirked coldly. Tsukine, it seems fate favors me. Don't worry, once I become an outer disciple of the sect, I will always remember your kindness. The Order World. In a technologically advanced hall, everything exuded an air of mystery. Sophisticated instruments and high-tech devices filled the space, their level of advancement surpassing most worlds by several eras. At the center stood a massive, crystalline screen, displaying countless tiny light points. Each dot represented a world. This screen encompassed all theoretical and finite possible worlds. It contained all that existed, and all that could exist. This was the Heaven's Eye system, the monitoring tool of the Order World, used to oversee the myriad realms. It could identify anomalies and predict a world's future trajectory. At that moment, an unusual fluctuation caught the attention of a monitoring officer. He immediately reported it to his superior. Sir, mid-class world B103629 has shown signs of interference, potential involvement from another high-ranked world. The supervisor nodded, accessing the database. After a brief moment, he spoke. That world has already been harvested. To avoid unnecessary conflicts, remove it from the Heaven's Eye system. Understood, sir. Chapter 313, If only we had met at the beginning. The monitoring officer nodded and began operating the control panel. Understood, supervisor. In today's increasingly tense global landscape, there was no need to create a potential enemy for Order over a mere B-rank world that had already undergone its first phase of development. Supervisor, I've marked the world as a sensitive region and removed it from the Heaven's Eye system. The supervisor patted the officer on the shoulder in approval. Well done. These are turbulent times. When selecting worlds, we must be extremely cautious. Let's avoid sending the system to develop certain small to mid-sized worlds that could easily lead to conflicts. Currently, S-rank worlds such as Great Desolation, Abyssal Demons, Genesis, and 616 were on the verge of war. A massive battle that could engulf countless worlds was imminent. Only Kyushu, Order, and Black Tower remained barely neutral. But if war broke out, it was only a matter of time before they too were dragged into the fray. At this thought, the supervisor couldn't help but sigh. Sigh. The world of Order had always been one that loved peace, ill-suited for warfare. If they had to face off against a dozen S-rank worlds at once, it would be incredibly difficult to hold their ground. At that moment, another staff member turned around and spoke up. Supervisor, we've already developed most of the unaffiliated mid to small worlds. Should we continue siphoning resources from the subsidiary worlds of Higashi next? The supervisor smacked the man on the head and scolded him. You know what to do, so don't go blurting it out so carelessly. Understood, supervisor. The man rubbed his head, grinning sheepishly before returning to his station. Higashi was the weakest of the S-rank worlds, and more interestingly. To put it simply, as long as you were stronger than them, even if you took their resources, they would bow and scrape, welcoming you with open arms. So why not take advantage of that? Thus, plundering Higashi's resources had become an unspoken agreement among the other S-rank worlds. Countless years later. Inside the Order world, at the God-tier System Academy. Those who entered the highest academy of Order were anything but ordinary. In this world, 1 in a billion were chosen at birth, prodigies whose consciousness was vastly different from the norm, with a stability and intensity a million times greater than that of ordinary beings. With specialized training and the assistance of advanced instruments, these individuals could project their consciousness across the myriad worlds, assuming the role of systems to extract the very essence of existence. And the God-tier System Academy was where these chosen ones were trained to become fully fledged systems. It was the start of a new academic year. The instructor stood on the podium, his expression solemn as he spoke. The first principle of being a system is to never develop emotions toward your host. Joy, anger, sorrow, pleasure, these are emotions that systems should neither have nor express. The relationship between a system and its host is purely transactional, a mutual exchange of benefits. Letting emotions interfere will cloud your judgment and lead you to make foolish decisions. He paused momentarily and turned his gaze toward a particular student in the classroom. Mikazuki, do you agree with what I just said? Some students follow the instructor's gaze, their expressions puzzled. What's going on? Why does it feel like the instructor is hinting at something? A nearby student looked incredulous. No way, don't tell me you haven't heard of Mikazuki? With an exasperated sigh, the student tapped 2 fingers against his companion's forehead, transmitting information directly into his mind. Mikazuki. A prodigy among prodigies. A legendary figure in the God-tier System Academy. 5 years ago, he passed every test with top marks and secured his system qualification even before graduation. As a system, his growth was extraordinary, simultaneously extracting the essence of 5 different worlds. Even veteran systems struggled to accomplish such a feat, yet Mikazuki, a mere rookie, had done it. But just when everyone thought he was destined to soar to unimaginable heights, he made the gravest mistake a system could make. He developed feelings for his first host. When the extraction process was complete and it was time to withdraw, instead of taking the harvested essence with him, he left all of it behind for his host. A cardinal sin among systems. As a result, Mikazuki was stripped of his system status and ordered to return to the academy for retraining. The academy, having invested considerable resources in him, was reluctant to simply discard such a talent. The decision was made: if Mikazuki could recognize his mistake, he would be reinstated. But Mikazuki met the instructor's gaze, his expression calm. Instructor, I believe you are correct, but I do not believe I was wrong. Because he never wavered in his belief, he remained at the academy year after year. The instructor shook his head in disappointment, his eyes turning cold. Hopeless. Frankly, the academy should have expelled you long ago. Scornful whispers spread through the classroom. The once legendary figure has become nothing more than a cautionary tale. Giving up his essence for some insignificant being from a low-tier world, utterly incomprehensible. Honestly, how did someone like him even pass the graduation exam in the first place? Just then, laughter echoed from the doorway. Ha ha ha. Truly the ignorance of summer insects speaking of ice, and well frogs discussing the ocean. The instructor frowned and turned toward the entrance. A man in a white robe, a long sword at his waist, strolled leisurely into the room. It was he who had spoken so mockingly. The instructor narrowed his eyes in displeasure. You are not one of our academy's students, are you? The students murmured amongst themselves. Where did this guy come from? Why is he acting so arrogant? That smug grin is really irritating. I kind of want to hit him with my essence technique. Don't be reckless, his energy signature feels stronger than our instructor's. Mikazuki trembled slightly. The aura surrounding the white-robed man felt so familiar. Could it be? No, that was impossible. The man leaned casually against the wall, tilting his head with a smile. Indeed, I am not from your academy. I am an exchange student from the Kyushu world. Hearing this, the light in Mikazuki's eyes faded. It's not him. How could it be him? What am I thinking? The instructor's expression changed slightly before quickly forcing a smile. Oh, an esteemed guest from Kyushu? Welcome, welcome. Students, TCH. The instructor chickened out? Lame. The white-robed man strode toward Mikazuki, smiling. I believe Mikazuki's actions were correct. He made a wise investment. Mikazuki's eyes widened. The man met his gaze and grinned. Because I was his first host. Chapter 314, 70 Years of Konoha. The Hokage's office. Obito sat on the desk, an arm draped around Kakashi as he spoke. You're so lazy, Kakashi. You've only been Hokage for a little over a decade, and you already want to quit? Kakashi shoved Obito's arm away and shot him an annoyed look. Excuse me? And what right do you have to judge me? If it weren't for you, would I be stuck here dealing with paperwork every single day? Obito waved his hands in surrender, looking a bit sheepish. All right, don't get mad. I was just saying. Besides, even without me, the sixth Hokage would still have been you. Some things are simply meant to be, you couldn't escape it even if you tried. After finally pacifying the grumpy silver-haired man, Obito scratched his head and asked. So, since you're stepping down, have you decided who'll take your place? At the mention of official matters, Kakashi's expression grew serious. I've had two candidates in mind for a long time, Itachi and Naruto. Both of them are more than capable of leading Konoha. Obito nodded slightly, agreeing with Kakashi's assessment. That's true. But since Itachi is off traveling with Izumi and their child, I assume you're planning to pass the title to Naruto? Kakashi nodded and looked Obito in the eye. That's right. Do you have any objections, Obito? Obito shrugged. I've watched that kid grow up. What objections could I possibly have? Don't worry, the Uchiha clan won't have a problem with it either. Hearing that, Kakashi secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Then it settled. Phew. I can finally retire. A peaceful life of reading books and spending time with my dear students. It's finally happening. Obito muttered under his breath. You're so lazy, Kakashi. Kakashi immediately grabbed Obito by the shoulders and shook him violently. You dare say that again? Do you have any idea what I've been through these past years? While you and Rin were off gallivanting around the world, I was stuck here drowning in paperwork. Do you know how much I've suffered? Later that evening. Still in the Hokage's office. Naruto stared, wide-eyed. Databao. Me? The seventh Hokage? Kakashi nodded, his expression solemn. That's right. Are you willing to take on this responsibility, Naruto? Naruto was at a loss. I guess I am, but this is so sudden. I'm not ready for this, Databao. Beside him, the ever-philosophical Obito gazed at him meaningfully and said, Life won't wait for you to be ready, Naruto. You need to prepare yourself ahead of time. Naruto hesitated. But... Obito patted his shoulder. All right, enough with the buts. That girl is at the right age for marriage too. If you propose as the Hokage, the Hyuga clan won't refuse you. If you want, you could even hold your inauguration and engagement ceremony together, just like I did. Naruto's expression wavered. His face turned red as he stammered. That doesn't seem right. Obito laughed heartily. What's wrong with it? It's efficient and saves money. Inside Obito's mansion, master bedroom. Rin lay in Obito's arms, her delicate brows slightly furrowed as she asked. Obito-kun, people always say that life is beautiful because it's fleeting. Do you think eternal life has any meaning? Ever since she learned that Obito could alter a person's lifespan, Rin had pondered such philosophical questions from time to time. Obito gently ruffled her hair and chuckled. Rin-chan, people say that mostly because they can't obtain eternal life. If a short life has meaning, then a long life must have even more. Rin blinked. Really? Heh, of course. Obito pressed a kiss to her forehead and said, In truth, life itself has no inherent meaning. But by living, you find interesting things, like how you found that flower, and how I found you. We can stay together forever, experiencing new and exciting things every day. Doesn't that sound meaningful? Rin giggled and snuggled deeper into his arms. It does! Just thinking about spending every day with you makes me so happy, Obito-kun. Obito, feeling her rubbing against him, smirked as his hands began to wander. Rin-chan, how about a game of cards tonight? Rin shook her head, flicking his forehead. Obito-kun, we have to wake up early for the inauguration ceremony tomorrow. Obito patted his chest confidently. Don't worry, it won't interfere at all. Kamui. The next day. On the grand stage atop the Hokage building. Before a massive audience. Kakashi, dressed in his Hokage robes, stepped forward and announced in a loud, clear voice. The inauguration ceremony for the 7th Hokage is now beginning. As the 6th Hokage, I, Hatake Kakashi, will be officiating. Cheers erupted from the crowd. Who? Kakashi-sama is so cool. But, not as cool as Obito-sama. Obito-sama, could you at least use a transformation jutsu before shouting something so embarrassing? On stage, Kakashi rolled his eyes before continuing. And now, let us welcome the man about to become the 7th Hokage, someone you all know well, Uzumaki Naruto. As the son of the 4th Hokage, and the student of the 6th Hokage, Naruto had earned the villagers' trust and admiration through his own efforts and kindness. A warm-hearted, down-to-earth Hokage was exactly what the people wanted. We support the 7th Hokage. May Konoha continue to thrive. Naruto's a good kid. We're all behind you. Among the crowd, a young man sighed emotionally. Can't believe that blonde brat actually became Hokage. I have serious doubts about this, but I'm not saying a word. On stage, Kakashi handed the Hokage hat to Naruto. Naruto, I leave Konoha in your hands. Don't let everyone down. And at last, I can finally soak in hot springs and read my books in peace. Naruto took the hat with a solemn expression and lifted it high. I will shoulder this responsibility. If I ever fall short, please guide me. 7th Hokage. 7th Hokage. 7th Hokage. The villagers' cheers echoed throughout the village. As the noise settled, Naruto scratched his head and cleared his throat. There's one more thing I'd like to do today. As the villagers looked on curiously, Naruto took a deep breath and shouted. Hyuga Hinata. I like you. Please marry me, Databeo. In the crowd. A certain white-eyed girl instantly turned red from head to toe, steam rising from her head. Guy, watching, gasped, 8 gates? With a soft whimper, she fainted on the spot. Beside her, Niji panicked. Hinata-sama? Meanwhile, as Obito lounged beside Rin, he couldn't help but chuckle. With a flick of his finger, a small pulse of chakra shot into Hinata's body. She instantly woke up, only to recall what had just happened, and promptly fainted again. Chapter 315, Konoha Year 75. Konoha Hospital. Inside a VIP ward. Obito narrowed his eyes slightly as he looked at the newborn blonde brat before him, a fleeting murderous intent flashing through his mind. Damn it! Boruto still ended up being born right on schedule. But then he thought about how he had already defied fate and rewritten the story. Obito figured that this brat wouldn't grow up to be as troublesome as before. Naruto, oblivious to his friend's thoughts, grinned happily and waved them over. Obito, Hagoromo, come in and sit. Ever since taking office as Hokage, Naruto had been swamped with work. He barely had time to wander around anymore. Thinking about it, he hadn't seen these two in over a month. As for Rin, since she worked at Konoha Hospital, she had already visited several times. So when Obito came over, he hadn't bothered calling her along. Hagoromo smiled and said, "Congratulations, Naruto. The little one isn't crying or making a fuss. He looks like an obedient child, he'll surely be easy to raise." Obito was instantly amused by his own son's words. Heh heh heh. Naruto, not really getting the joke, just laughed along foolishly. To avoid disturbing Hinata's rest, the three of them stepped outside to the small hospital garden and sat on the edge of a flower bed, casually chatting. Obito crossed one leg over the other and asked, Naruto, I heard from Kakashi that you're planning to abolish the Umbu? Naruto scratched his head, a bit uncertain. Yeah, I've been thinking about it. I believe Konoha no longer needs the Umbu in its current form. So I want to merge the Umbu with the police force and establish a new Konoha defense unit, Databeo. Obito patted Naruto's shoulder with a grin. Ha! No need to be so nervous. Both Kakashi and I think it's a good idea. Seeing Konoha grow stronger under your leadership makes us proud. I'm sure Minato-sensei feels the same. Naruto finally let out a sigh of relief and continued explaining his plan. I originally wanted Itachi to take charge of this new unit, but he said he wanted to focus more on his family. So I'm thinking of appointing Sasuke as the head, with Neji and Konohamaru as his deputies. What do you think, Obito? Obito nodded, a touch of emotion in his voice. You've arranged things well, balancing individual abilities with clan interests. You've really grown up, Naruto. On the way home, Obito glanced at his distracted son and sighed. Hagoromo, Naruto already has a kid. What about you and Sonoko? Hagoromo, lost in thought, hadn't even heard his father speak. He suddenly turned to Obito, his expression serious. Father, I've been thinking about something. Seeing his son's solemn look, Obito's heart leaped with hope. Could it be, he's finally focusing on life's important matters? Hagoromo furrowed his brows and asked, Father, how can I catch up to your level? Or even surpass you? Obito. I knew it. I got ahead of myself. Sigh. As for surpassing me, restart life or bind yourself to some overpowered system. Not wanting to discourage his son, Obito pondered for a moment before replying seriously. If you can master the sage techniques of all three great summoning realms and fuse them together, then maybe, just maybe, you'll have a chance. Hagoromo's eyes lit up with determination. Even if it's just a slim chance, I'll give it my all. Obito ruffled his son's hair, a proud smile on his face. That's my boy. That indomitable spirit, it reminds me of my younger self. Perfect. Now no one will interrupt my time with Rin. Hagoromo chuckled shyly. Father, I'm still far from your level. When he was younger, Obito had often told him how he trained relentlessly to achieve his current strength. Because of this, Hagoromo had always believed that his own efforts were only a fraction of what his father had put in. Obito coughed lightly, feeling a little guilty, and spoke in a serious tone. I can arrange for your training in the three great sage lands, but I have one condition. Hagoromo's eyes gleamed with excitement, his fists clenching. Name it! No matter the challenge, I'm confident I can overcome it. Obito nodded, pleased with his son's attitude. You have to bring Sonoko with you. Hagoromo? But father, women will only slow down my training. Obito sighed and ignored his son, striding ahead. This brat is regressing. He used to know how to flirt when he was little. How did he grow up to be so dense? On a gently sloping hill, two figures sat side by side in silence, enjoying the tranquil atmosphere. The sun gradually sank behind the clouds, casting golden hues that bled into the sky like flowing paint. The colors of autumn leaves painted the clouds in dreamy shades of rose and crimson. Jiraiya gazed at Tsunade beside him, his heart pounding. Bathed in the twilight glow, her fair skin took on the hue of two ripe apples, making her even more captivating. A warm breeze brushed past them, and the air seemed to tingle with an unspoken tension. Jiraiya swallowed. Bracing himself for the possibility of getting a few ribs broken, he coughed and turned to Tsunade. Ahem, Tsunade, there's something on your face. Let me wipe it off for you. Tsunade blushed slightly and gave a barely audible This idiot, couldn't he come up with a better excuse? With her permission, Jiraiya gently cupped her face, slowly leaning in. Tsunade, shy but expectant, closed her eyes, waiting for the moment. Their faces drew closer and closer. Jiraiya could feel her breath warm against his skin. Just as he puckered his lips, ready to seal the moment, a sudden voice interrupted. Am I interrupting something?" Startled, Tsunade's eyes flew open, and she instinctively shoved Jiraiya away. Jiraiya's soul nearly left his body. I was this close to kissing her. Why? Why was he always just a little bit short? Jiraiya turned, his expression dark, and glared at the intruder. Obito. What do you want? Obito, realizing he had just ruined Jiraiya's big moment, chuckled awkwardly. Hey, nothing major. He had planned to ask the two of them for a favor, pull some strings to help his son train in the Sage Lands. But now? Obito decided to flee. You two carry on. My issue can wait. Bye! The annoying third wheel disappeared in an instant. But the moment was gone. Jiraiya clenched his teeth. He had protected Tsunade for a lifetime. This time, he wouldn't let himself fall short again. Tsunade. Huh? What are you, MMPH? Soft. Warm. Finally. Chapter 316, Obito and Raphael. A laboratory filled with intricate, precision instruments. Obito sat casually on the experiment table, one leg crossed over the other, staring at Orochimaru while shaking his head and sighing. Orochimaru, I only asked you to cultivate a suitable body for me, yet you took a full 20 years to do it. You've really let me down. Orochimaru let out a wry chuckle, his expression somewhat helpless as he explained. Obito-sama, your cellular activity is too powerful. The replication process, well, to put it simply, it's incredibly difficult. Obito, never one for scientific jargon, only caught the gist of it. Basically, he was too strong. So strong, in fact, that he had transcended normal human limitations. Which meant that creating a body on par with his own was exponentially more difficult. That actually makes some sense, Obito muttered. Now that he thought about it, the Akatsuki clan had technology far beyond Earth's. There was no way they hadn't mastered cloning. So why hadn't they just cloned their own bodies for reincarnation purposes? Perhaps, it was because their power exceeded the limits of cloning itself. With that realization, a faint purple light flickered in Obito's eyes. He reached out and absorbed the newly cultivated body, an exact replica of himself, into his Kamui dimension. Moments later, his other self from within the dimension relayed feedback. This body has excellent compatibility. After nurturing it with chakra for 100 years, it should become a perfect vessel. Phew! As long as it works. This means I've secured another life, Obito murmured, finally allowing himself to relax. He turned to Orochimaru, a rare smile on his face. Well done. You've worked hard, Orochimaru. Orochimaru bowed slightly with a humble smile. It is my duty to assist you, Obito-sama. He seemed to hesitate for a moment, as if debating whether to say something more. Kabuto, noticing this, stepped forward with a smirk. Sensei, the Ten-Tails chakra you provided last time has been fully used up. We would appreciate it if you could supply us with more for further research. Obito was in a good mood. He gave a small nod and casually pulled out a scroll from his robes, tossing it toward Orochimaru. Orochimaru caught it carefully and tucked it away with great care. By the way, Obito-sama. Orochimaru's tone darkened slightly. Our dear daimyo has been making some questionable moves lately. Do you want us to handle it? Since Konoha's technological revolution, the village had accumulated immense wealth through high-tech industries. With money, manpower, and technology on their side, Orochimaru and Kabuto's organization had infiltrated the highest levels of the Land of Fire's government. To put it plainly, if they wished, they could replace the daimyo in an instant. Orochimaru had expected Obito to show interest in this matter. To his surprise, Obito simply waved a hand dismissively. No need to report trivial matters like this to me. You two can decide for yourselves. Then, with a frown, he grumbled, what I care about more is when our village's internet speed is going to improve. My online gaming experience has been absolute hell lately. Orochimaru. Kirigakure. Inside Shisui and Mei's home. The warmth of the morning sunlight filtered through the curtains. Shisui slowly opened his eyes, stretching with a yawn as he prepared to get up. Only to realize Mei's long legs were wrapped around him, holding him in place. He chuckled, shaking his head in amusement. With a swift body replacement technique, he freed himself and tiptoed toward the kitchen, preparing breakfast for his wife and daughter. Soon, the ever-diligent Shisui had the table set with a delicious spread. He called out, Mei, Asuka, breakfast is ready. At his voice, two beautiful figures emerged from the bedroom, one big, one small. Both of them rubbed their eyes sleepily, yawning in perfect synchronization. The resemblance between mother and daughter was uncanny. As soon as they sat down, they started devouring their food with zero restraint. Husband, Dad, your cooking is the best, they praised between bites. After breakfast, while Shisui was washing the dishes, Mei slipped into the kitchen and hugged him from behind. Darling, we'll be heading back to Konoha soon. Are you happy? She murmured, pressing herself against him, her voice teasing in his ear. She had already entrusted the position of Mizukage, and Kirigakure itself, to Chojuro. Now, she was ready to return to Konoha with Shisui and their daughter, to care for his aging parents together. Shisui leaned into her touch, his face full of warmth. Of course I'm happy. Thank you, Mei. Mei kissed him softly. No, I should be thanking you, for staying in Kirigakure with me all these years. For always being by my side. Just outside the door, Asuka groaned loudly. Father, Mother. It's way too early for this much PDA, public display of affection. In response, Mei and Shisui exchanged a mischievous glance, then kissed right in front of her. Aya! You two are the worst. Asuka shrieked, storming back into her room and slamming the door shut. Returning to Konoha added a new layer of joy to Obito's life. Family, friendship, love, power, status, strength. He had everything he once longed for. And under his influence, the entire shinobi world had changed. Peace flourished. Happiness became the norm. It was a beautiful life. So beautiful. Even though he had not personally experienced every moment, Obito still felt immense joy. Simply recalling those memories made his lips curl into a small smile. Yet, the happier he felt, the more conflicted he became. Before him, the figure who had slashed open the dimensional barrier spoke in a calm voice. So, have you made your choice? Will you leave, or will you stay? Obito stood at a crossroads. He could abandon everything and ascend to the higher realms alone. Or he could remain in this world, for the sake of his loved ones. Just as hesitation crept in, a voice echoed from deep within his heart. You've carried too much responsibility, for me, for Rinchan, for everyone, for this world. I know you've long grown weary of being its guardian. Now that everything has settled, it's time to live for yourself. Obito trembled. That voice was his own. I will remain in this world as Uchiha Obito, protecting it and everyone within it. But you are not just Obito. You are more than that. Go and chase the life you truly desire, as Raphael. Raphael. After thousands of years, the name felt almost unfamiliar. Yet, deep down, he still remembered. That was his name. To live as Raphael. Obito lifted his head, eyes burning with resolve. My choice is the end. That's the end of this tale. Thank you for watching the entire series, and I'll see you in the next series. Peace.